Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Tonight it's the round table and we got one hell of a good panel for you. As we're going to be talking a lot of UFOs, disclosure, aliens, and everything in between. Our great panel tonight, we got Roderick Martin, Jason Gilmet, Marquise Williams, and our resident Timbit, little Timmy Senor. And we're going to have a great time with all of you tonight. We might have a Science Bob sighting as well. Before we bring in the panel, let us say hello to each and every one of you. We have Race Fan in the gold medal position. Robert Lamoth taking home the silver with Sundance Kid in the bronze medal tonight. Also, who else do we have here? We got Eric Austin. Welcome back, Eric. Lisa C., Dino Bravo, Human Carl. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. A great veteran of the United States Air Force. We love our veterans around here. Kurt M., number 17 in your program. Starting at left wing from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. Yeah, Lars will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Donna and Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, how are you? Simon, the dog face, good to see you. Les Paul Holland, keep on rocking, buddy. And Area 51, good to have you here. Be More Dan, The Gong Show, how you doing? Lee the Bee, Allison Singh, Forrest Louie, how you doing? Hi, Laura Lobs and Doubleday. Luscious Jules, nice to see you. Millennium, my man. Good to have you here. Hi, Noble Patrick. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. And there's Emmy Tong. And who else do we have here? Pixie, Lara, and Gansfeld Files. How are you? Esmeralda, nice to see you. Guy Calgary, how you doing? Maggie M10, and there's Aunt Edna making a surprise appearance. Aunt Edna will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Dave Walters, how you doing? Forrest Louie, thank you so much for kicking off the super chat tonight. You know what he did? He actually recorded a happy birthday for me for my birthday. So thank you, Louie. That actually meant a lot. Very much appreciated. Hi, Nikki in Seattle and Ross Lambda. How you doing? Marty Burback, Big Tex. Good to see you all. And there's Roger Murray. Thank you for joining us. And Rugged Source, TMI. Good to have you both here. Continuing on with our roll call tonight. Who's next? Random Guy. Yeah, there's Random Guy. Give us a wave, Random Guy. And oob to Joe's Domain. You've got Random Guy as well. All right, moving on. Let's see. We got Christine Lynn. Thank you for joining us. Super crazy. Nice to have you here. And Digger Dog, Penman, Richard Elmore. Good to have you all. Continuing on. Hi, Gloria. How are you? And who else is showing on up here? Let's take a little peeky poo here, shall we? There's Izzy Stradlin. Beth, how are you? Good to see you. And Kim Stanley, thanks for coming on in. Where's Mama Catherine? Mama Catherine, where are you? If you're not in the chat room, mwah! This one's for you, my dear. And River Dogma, thank you for joining us. And who's in Facebook land right now? Let's take a little peeky poo here. Allison Singh and Sparkles are in the Facebook chat. And let us go over and start the radio side so that way we could get Bill WD-40 into the chat room, because you always want to go into a chat room lubed up, and Bill WD-40 does a great job of lubing us up for each and every show. Who else have we got here? There's Dirty Fylth and the Unknown. How you doing, man? Good to have you both here. The super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Also, you can do some shopping at spacedoutradio.com and grab all your really cool swag there. And if you don't mind, if you're new here or if you're not, hit that thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, as we are here 7 days a week for your listening entertainment. And there's no place we would rather be than here for all of you. There's Bill WD-40 in the Spreaker chat. And we're going to get going here in about 5 seconds. So I need all of you to do me a big favor. Hi, Deb from SAC. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live at KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Hard to believe we are already through 5 months of 2023. But once again, it comes down to the fact that at the end of each month, we do the roundtable, where I bring in a group of guests. And for the next 3 hours, we are going to discuss, debate, and go over everything strange and weird that has popped up in the last 30 days. Now, we got a power panel for you tonight from our after hours show on YouTube. Marquise Williams is with us. Little Timmy Senor, our resident Timbit, from the UFO Report, he joins us. From the UAP Studies podcast, a man who loves the term UAP, Jason Gilmet, and Roderick Martin is here with us from his great YouTube channel, Why the Big Secret. And here we go. We're going to get things going right off the bat. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here tonight. What an honor to have you both here. And, let's start off with the whole idea that we're all waiting and anticipating this Washington Post article to come out that is going to break the doors wide open on the term disclosure. Now, we had heard that it was going to come down earlier today. It has not. It might come through the weekend. It may not. We don't know. What we do know is that it's allegedly written by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Ralph Blumenthal and his sidekick and longtime UFO reporter Leslie Kane. And Jason, let's start with you from UAP Studies podcast, because I just want to start with a fellow Canadian for once. Anticipation. We are hearing a lot of anticipation about what is coming down, that this is true disclosure coming in this article. We've heard this before. Is this real this time?
You know what? I would say that, hang on, I'm just going to bit of feedback. I think it's coming from my end. Yeah, we're good. No, I was going to say, we just spoke to Ralph Blumenthal not that long ago, and I'm a little mad that he never even brought up the article or that he was working on something. So I'm not kidding. I'm not mad, but he didn't say anything. He's good. He's good at his craft. I really am hoping that it's going to shock us again, because keep in mind the 2017 release was a huge deal. I mean, for most of us, it got us off the couch and moving into the subject and saying, I want to contribute. Like, it's time that I get off the couch, stop thinking that I'm an expert, and move into the field of study and really find out what's going on. So we owe him and Leslie and always forget the other author.
Elaine Cooper.
Yes, thank you. It's either you or Louis. You always have the name. I love it. But yeah, we owe it to them for releasing that huge news. Like, it is huge news. That's admitting that we have a UAP problem and that even the government and the military don't really know how to handle it. So I'm guessing this next piece of news should be pretty cool.
All right, let's go to Roderick Martin here from Why the Big Secret. You have been studying this for a while. You've been getting a lot, Roderick, since you were on. I mean, congratulations to you, by the way, for a bunch of different television appearances and really pushing the limits. Your channel on YouTube, Why the Big Secret, has grown exponentially since the last time you were on air with us. So congratulations to you for that, first and foremost. But let's get to you. I mean, is this all hype? Is it all conjecture? We've heard this before. I'm not trying to sound naive or dogged on the topic, but I'm at the point now where I'm not even sure I want disclosure to happen because I don't think it's going to be a correct disclosure. But we could get into that later. What's your thoughts on everybody saying that this article, if it ever comes out, is going to be the one that brings aliens to Earth?
Well, first of all, Dave, thank you for even having me here with these great folks and all of us sitting here. Yeah, it's a Texas thing saying the word folks, but we'll do the horns here. The other part of that question, and I think, first of all, the audience, the Spaced Out Radio audience supporting my channel, we have a little crossover. Some of them comes over and do that. And with your help in the beginning and really allow me to share some things have helped my channel as well. So basically, we need to give things back to the Dave. But now let's get into that question. I think that, when we use the term disclosure and where the letdown or the anticipation comes into play is that we need to, all of us, begin to establish a parameter of what we say disclosure is. So, for example, in the military, we got DEFCON 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? So we're at DEFCON 3. We need to do disclosure 4, 5, 6, or whatever, because what is disclosure? What is disclosure to you? Disclosure to Tim, the Marquise, and and all of us, right? And so, some people think that disclosure is going to be that they're going to open up the FBI file that I got here in my hand, and then all of a sudden, here's the reptilians, and we're going to show y'all, everything, right? That's not it. If they got 10 doors, Dave, and long as we, the collective, can say we know what's behind door number 1 and door number 2, that's the only disclosure we're going to get. They're not going to come in and say, oh, by the way, door 3 to 8, y'all don't know about, but here's the file. They're not doing that. And so I'm like you, my expectations is down. I just want to wait and see what they say. And then we just have to just add it to the little pegboard and see if we can put some pieces together, because we have to, and maybe we could do that tonight, all of us. What would we consider levels of disclosure, and what is disclosure in the whole basket? You know what I mean?
And that's a good transition to Science Bob, where thank you for joining us, Science Bob.
I'm sorry I'm late.
Science Bob, you all right. You all right.
That's all right. You're Science Bob. You're allowed to be traditionally late.
No, I don't like being late, dude. But anyway, what do you want me to talk about?
Even in the UAP world, science is always late, Bob. So
there you go. That's true.
Bob, you and I were talking a little bit earlier, and you were telling me that the United States government, in any sort of disclosure, has zero interest in moving this subject prior to 2004.
They're never going to do it because they're not going to admit all the laws they broke and all the civil rights they violated and all the money they hid in order to fund their activities. They're just not going to do it.
Okay, so why hold on that date? What is it? The Nimitz incident, which is a good starting point?
I think because they want to go forward with only things for which they have modern sensor data before they even look at it, they're just not going to go before the Nimitz. That's the first incident where they had the brand new Spy 1 radar that could track these things all the way to outer space.
Okay, so is that healthy for disclosure?
No, but I tell you, only thing I think we're going to get in the next 12 months is we are dealing with a non-human intelligence. We know these craft are not made on Earth. That's the beginning and end of all we're going to hear. That's what I think.
All right, let's bring in little Timmy Senor from the UFO Report here on this subject, because you are somebody who has been tracking this story very diligently for us on the UFO Report during my show. Tim, just your thoughts on the fact that this Washington Post article has yet to come out. We're waiting for it, eagerly awaiting for it. You know, it's supposed to be our eyes wide open to this subject of UFOs and non-human intelligence, like they like to call it, instead of just saying aliens, because aliens just sounds so much better to me. Maybe it's Hollywood or whatever, but it just rolls off the tongue easier. Tim, your thoughts?
It does. Aliens sounds great, and Gary Nolan has definitely whetted all of our palates on this topic, so we're definitely ready for the big news. Now, is it going to be as great as we all hope for? Who's to say? It's going to be great to actually read something in fine print. But for me, as kind of a newcomer, I'm kind of, fresh to the topic. This is pretty massive that this topic is hitting headlines at all. So yes, I'm fine with them drawing the line at the Nimitz. Why not? We have extraordinary data from that encounter, and we're collecting it all along the way. So if we have some more modern data to reveal, bring it on. I'm excited. I can only imagine what these two have dug up. We know that Leslie Kane has a great record for bringing some details with her recent release of a series that she brought to Hulu. I thought, there was a lot of eye-opening information in that documentary and series. So why not have some groundbreaking information coming forward publicly in a publication? I'm looking forward to it. Now, again, I'm keeping my expectations realistically low because everyone around me is reminding me to do so. So it's good advice. But the fact that this is hitting headlines, I feel is massive. So I'm excited. I'm excited and open to anything that comes.
Let's get Marquise Williams in from our After Hours show here on YouTube. And Marquise, I know that you are somebody who is part of this new age of UFO studies, because you love the UAPs as well. And I mean, I love bugging you guys. I really do. It just makes me feel good. It really does. But
punching down, Dave. Is that what you?
But for you, Marquise, when you look at this, I mean, there's solid excitement around the UFO community. There's another buzz going around, much like every time we hear that there's going to be hearings coming up, and then we're loaded with disappointment when that happens. But nonetheless, our excitement never seems to drop when it comes to anything that could be hitting a mainstream major news wire or television news section. I mean, just your thoughts on the overall idea that this article could be coming out anytime.
A couple of thoughts. The first thing is that unfortunately, I think that, everyone on the panel is pretty much right. We should keep our expectations low because we've been fooled before several times. We know that Stephen Greer, for example, is coming out with his new disclosure movement conference again for the third time, by the way. The first time was in 2001. I can't remember when the second one was. I think it was 2007, or I don't know. It could have been 2011. I'm not quite sure about the date, but there was another one where he talked to ex-members of Congress, and he brought all those witnesses and they talked to them about UFOs and aliens and actually seeing beings and all that stuff. And nothing happened. I mean, we're here over 10 years. Well, at this point, 22 years later, and nothing has changed since then. I mean, nothing generally. There's no real disclosure about what we've already been told about by a lot of these witnesses. So the idea that these witnesses coming forward is going to be the thing, that's not going to be it. However, I do hope for the efforts of people who have claimed that there is something different coming this time, that there is going to be a greater level of disclosure. To Roderick's point about levels of disclosure, I hope that what has been said is going to be a greater level of disclosure is going to happen this year, because all the people that are talking about this, they know the history and we've been here before. So they must know that what's been done before can't be done again, or else we're going to get nowhere again. So,
Tim, I'm going to pick on you here for a second because you're my buddy, and we come at the UFO subject from such different angles. But you said you're all right with going with ufology starting at the 2004 Nimitz incident and kind of, pushing the past off all due to evidence. We don't know what evidence is prior to 2004. We just know 2004 because they showed us 3 grainy videos, and we had a bunch of Navy dudes come out and say that this is what they saw publicly. We don't know what happened at Roswell, if there was, old stock video footage with aliens walking around plus a craft, or what about the Phoenix Lights in 1997? There was plenty of evidence and video footage there. Why is it okay, in your opinion, Tim, to start at 2004?
Well, I think there's really a couple of reasons, and I think Science Bob actually touched on a couple of really good ones, just being on the fact that, they were hiding things potentially back then that could be fairly incriminating, and you'd have to get into some pretty deep, dark secrets if you're going to go too far back. And also, we know that typically around that age, it was all paper. Historically, back then, all those records were paper and typically pretty easy to manipulate or get rid of or whatever. Whereas now, and around 2004, you have a digital access, and that's the way secrets were kept. And so it's a little bit harder to, let's say, hide things, get rid of things, burn the trail of. And so that data is more readily available and potentially more accurate simply because it can't be as easily manipulated. And so in my opinion, I would say that's potentially why they're kind of drawing the line in the sand there, because the data and information they're getting is probably a little more accurate potentially than historical records.
All right, Roderick, I'd love to hear your opinion on that. Are you a 2004 guy, or do you go beyond that?
Listen, there's one thing that we all know. 2004, we saw an object. Back in the 50s, we had bodies. They don't want to talk about the bodies. They don't want to talk about the alien survivors and bodies. They know people can cope with technology that we don't have to identify. Oh, it's not from this earth. But when it's time to say there's actually a alien right here, here's what it looked like, Akbach from planet Xeon or whatever, or the Greys or whatever it is, that's the point. They want to, that's it. They just don't want to talk about the bodies, the aliens, the people, the stuff they got covered up, and the beginning. See, the beginning is always the most important thing. You celebrating your day of birth today. We need the birth of it all. We don't need to talk about Dave at 40. We can see that. We need, what about little Dave when he was born, the day, so we want to go back to the bodies. That's what we all want to know. I can care less about an object flying around. I want to still see the bodies. And I'm sure y'all do too. Y'all want to see the bodies.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Get them bodies off the floor. Get the bodies off.
Get the bodies out, baby. I mean, when we meet a woman, we want to know the body count. We don't want to know what else is happening. The body is important.
We want the history, addresses.
Let me see your Snapchat, girl.
We want the bodies, baby. We got to see the bodies and bones. We got to see it. Yeah.
Marquise, are you in agreement with Tim?
I think that's actually a great statement. I mean, the only thing that I will say, refer back to what John Ramirez said recently. He said that they have to release the bodies, because if they talk about the craft, people are not, they're just lights in the sky, they're fuzzy videos, just like you said, Roderick. That is exactly what John Ramirez said. He said they need to release the evidence about the bodies. That's literally, it's ironic that you would mention that, because I agree.
Jason, your thoughts?
Do you know what? I think even if we started at the 2004 mark, as long as it gets people interested, if they release that it's going to be, non-human intelligence that's behind this technology is not ours, it gets the ball rolling. You know what I mean? Because now people are talking about it. They'll start paying attention to podcasts and other shows. People like yourselves, gentlemen, you're going to educate these people on what took place beforehand. You're going to teach them that this goes before 2004, and that there's a lot of history there. And that's what people are going to know. They're going to start seeking this information. So it's fine. They could start at 2004 and start admitting it from there, but it still gives validity to the other aspects of the phenomenon, as abduction, close encounters, cattle mutilations. All that becomes very much important under the umbrella of disclosure as well. And
All
I
right.
think that's the biggest fear.
So what if we were selling tickets to an event of 6, and we did 2 shows? One shows we got an alien craft, the other one we got alien bodies. Which one you think would be sold out?
Bodies.
The body, for sure.
Bodies will be sold.
The only problem is that with what Gary Nolan said about the idea that they're not actually they're not biological, the possibility of them being artificial in nature, for example, like an android, which is
I still want to peel back the body. I want to just let me look and see he got artificial veins. I want to see the bodies, and we can relate.
Do you know how many packs of rubber hand gloves Roderick has purchased just for that moment where he gets to touch them alien bodies?
I'm not sure that's what the rubber and gloves are for.
I'm gonna take the gloves off. I'm going straight in, right there, catch all diseases. Everything else. Metaphorically speaking,
You're supposed to always go in strap, brother. What you talking about?
I know, right? I will wear the gloves.
Their body, their robot bodies might be biological. That's number one, and number two, let me give you some real politic. What is the situation in Congress in Washington right now? They're just before the fall recess. They're going to do nothing until the fall recess is over. That's number one, and number two. Nothing will take precedence over the ending of the debt ceiling crisis. After that, everything's fair game.
Well, I want to say something towards Tim here, as we got about 2 minutes to go. Tim, I agree with you that the best evidence we have, if we go nuts and bolts, is from 2004, and we need to study that. But for me, and this is just my opinion, all these little games that have been played over the years and stories, whether it's the aliens of Roswell, whether it's Valiant Thor, whether it's Richard Nixon taking his good buddy Jackie Gleason down to an Air Force base to view alien bodies, all of these little mysteries are what keeps me going, that there is so much more that we need to discuss about this topic, and we need to get to the bottom of it, because these stories deserve to be told. Otherwise, they're just legend, they're just lore, and for many people, they're just a fallacy that has been made up throughout UFO time. And I want to get to the bottom of that. I want to know what Jackie Gleason saw, if he saw anything at all. I want to know what happened to Jimmy Carter, which is a lot of it's coming out in Grant Cameron's new book, regarding his sighting and how he was shut down with trying to get to the UFO files. I want to know what happened in between Roswell and Phoenix. I want to know that wasn't flares in Phoenix. There's a lot that I want to know. And I think that's all part of disclosure. But I truly do understand your point, Tim, that, 2004, it is, for nuts and bolts and evidentiary practice, it is the best time for us to move forward and to key on about the reality of this subject. Gentlemen, I'm going to get you all to hold on right there, because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. We have a power panel tonight on the SOR Roundtable with UFO Report's Tim Senor, After Hours, Marquise Williams, Science Bob from the UAP Studies Podcast, Jason Gilman, and the man, the myth, and the legend, Why the Big Secret, Roderick Martin. When we come back, Gary Nolan says there's aliens. Where's them aliens? We need some aliens on Spaced Out Radio next. Good start, guys. Good start.
All righty.
All right, let's. I'm going to need your help here, boys, for a second. Hunting with Aliens, thank you. Deb, thank you for that great super chat. And you see, right here, we have the Cryptid Huntress,
Hey,
and it's her
Jessica.
birthday tonight.
Happy
Oh, no way.
Happy
So if you
birthday
could all
to
join
you.
me at Happy
Happy
Birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you. Happy birthday
Birthday
To
to
you.
you.
Happy
Birthday,
birthday, dear
dear
Cryptid
Jessica.
Huntress.
Jessica,
Cryptid Huntress.
Happy
Happy birthday
birthday
to
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 you.
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 Thank you, Street.
Now we're going to speed it up a little bit.
And thank you to StreamYard for making that the absolute worst happy birthday song
I know, right?
ever sung on this show.
When I realized how slow it was, I'm like, I can't sing that slow.
I
Nice.
know you're a metalhead happy birthday kind of guy. Hi,
Yeah.
Matt Geeks. How you doing? Bears Eat Beats. How you doing? Good to have you back. It's been a while. And well, there she goes. She's like, "Oh, thanks, y'all." That Southern hospitality thing going on there. Susan Alloway, how you doing? Nice to see you. And we are caught up on the people in the chat room. And yeah, we's going to get some aliens coming up here on the Mighty SOR. Tim's got aliens. He just doesn't like to admit it. Random Guy's got aliens. Tim, does Random Guy got aliens?
He's having issues. Yeah, he's definitely something's coming and hanging out with him at night, giving him some bad dreams.
He got aliens. Yeah. You know he's listening. He's like, Nicole, they're telling me I got aliens and I don't like it.
I want to hear from you guys. I've been having a struggle with a certain aspect of the phenomena that's been bothering me for so long, and that's this idea. And my audience actually we have a lot of fun going back and forth about this. In the chat, Dave, Nicole brought up the idea that there's an after effect, or there could be something that happens beforehand when it comes to the experiences having trauma, when they're as a result of, or the phenomena targets those that have traumas already. And I thought that kind of sounds, in my opinion, it sounds predatory. You know, you go after the ones that are at least mentally, especially if you're talking about something that has psychotronic weaponry or capabilities, you go after ones that are broken, the ones that are mentally, that are a little bit more fractured. So it's easier to enter into their mind. And it sounds like to me, if that's the case, that one of two things are happening. Either one, the phenomena is targeting people that have traumas, making it easier for them to get inside of their mind and manipulate their perceptions, or two, that as a consequence of coming into contact with the phenomena, especially direct contact, allegedly, they have traumas, which it could be both. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I got an answer for that one. I can take you all the way back to the Discovery Channel when you see the cheetah, the lion, the leopard, when they after the wildebeest. Who do they pick out?
The one that's the slowest, the weakest.
The weakest. Yeah. That's just been the bedrock of time. That's the whole thing. The weakest link. The chain is strong as the weakest link. All of those things is just, and you talking about high intelligence? So
Right.
they're not going to change the rules. So, they're not going to just, let's get the strongest of them. You know, this ain't Terminator.
No.
With, you know, remember with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they picked up his brain, his head on the Predator, and he goes, "Oh, I got a good one now." You know what I'm saying? Let me just
yeah.
So
No, I think it's interesting because on the one hand, you have there's a lot of positive experiences with the phenomena that they just can't be denied. There's a lot of people that they fly the craft. They say they fly the craft anyway. They have these religious experiences where it's like they're angelic and spiritual, and they actually create a transformative process as a consequence of that contact. But then at the same time, like with Whitley Strieber, while he also has this transformative after effect, he's also has this trauma that lasted even to this day as a result. I mean, I talked to Michael Carter, and he even says that to this day he still has issues at nighttime, as do I, which, by the way, I'm glad that I'm not the only man who has those issues from the experience. But you know, the fear of like, oh my gosh, they could just come in here whenever they want to, like whenever they want to.
Guys, hold on right there. Thank you tonight to Deb, to Bob, to Becky, and Louie for the great super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show. If you haven't already, give us a thumbs up, thumbs down. If you're new, please do us a favor, hit that subscribe, ring that bell. We work hard for you here 7 days a week, and we're going to continue with the panel right now. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with the roundtable panel. We got Science Bob from Why the Big Secret YouTube channel, Roderick Martin from the UAP Studies podcast, Jason Gilmet, Marquise Williams from the After Hours Show, and last but not least, the resident Timbit, Tim Senor from our UFO report. And Gary Nolan made some major news where he was speaking to a group of potential investors in science about potentially funding what could be alien life studies right here on Earth. This was something that really hit the fan on Twitter, where the critics were going absolutely haywire, and others who were in support of Gary saying, you go. Finally, we're admitting that aliens are currently here. And, you know, Science Bob, let's start with you on this one, because I thought Gary, who somewhat did a minor league retraction on this, on his comments, Gary's the kind of guy who speaks from his heart. He's also, what a lot of people don't understand, an experiencer of the phenomena. This is close to his heart. But I mean, on the flip side, we need that brilliant scientist like Gary Nolan to be studying this field and to be trying to attract big dollars in order to push the studies forward, Bob.
Yeah, so I've seen Gary talk now in multiple places. I've attended conferences with him in New York and talked to him privately, and I've exchanged messages with him on Signal. So, you know, I've talked to the guy, and he has never been this forceful, never been this definitive, never averred this strongly that we are about to hear about non-human intelligence. I've never heard him sound like this. Something changed. Something changed. A lot of people don't know that they're in the UFO field that Kit Green used to be the CIA Weird Desk and had some things to do with the Stargate project and Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ's work on remote viewing and so forth. How Gary Nolan got kind of brought into this scientifically is that Kit Green involved him in a study of the brain and on Havana syndrome, and serendipitously, I think it was serendipitous. I don't believe it was the actual purpose, and they hit it with Havana syndrome. I think they accidentally discovered in the middle of studying brains for Havana syndrome causes that they discovered the Caute-Putaman connection between people who were experiencers. And another factoid I learned from John Ramirez and others is there was a big poll inside the intelligence community on systems that are shared intelligence community wide about requesting people tell them about their experiences. And they got a huge number of responses, and 20% of them were positive that they were having an experiences. So inside the intelligence community, it seems that it is full of experiencers. And so they're taking it seriously. I just think Gary Nolan knows a lot of these people. He's involved in the science of proving stuff is real. He's involved in the science of studying metamaterials and other things that we're going to need to understand how to engineer to do the things these craft are doing.
Aliens, Roderick. You got some aliens. I got some aliens. Marquise got aliens. Tim's got nuts and bolts. Jason, he's got a nice mustache. Science Bob's got some aliens. A bunch of us have aliens on this panel here. Where do you think them aliens are hiding, my man?
And well, we would think if we go back to some of the stories we heard, shapeshifters. So that means that they potentially walk among us. And Gary made something in that interview, a comment the other day that really stuck out to a story or analogy I always use when he says, well, we're not really getting the extraterrestrials themselves that are crashing and retrieving. And see, this goes back to what we were saying earlier. The technology that they're using, they're no longer sending themselves in some bodily form like they was back then. This is why we want the bodies. It's kind of like a historic event. So he was saying that the crashes that we are recovering are either AI drones type of technology. And so now where are the aliens, right? Why would they? So the ones that are already here, possibly, probably walking among us. The new ones are saying we're not going to come here and deal with these stupid earthlings, and so my answer to that is they walk among us, the ones that are already here, and the ones that are breeding here, their babies are here, and so it's just but when it comes down to the experiences that everyone is having, the trauma and all of those things, I mean, it's as real as it get. And that is something that we really got to discuss, especially when Gary made mention, and we can segue to that later, the religion of Vatican and Christianity with the aliens, right? And so that just, we can talk about that later.
All right, let's move over to you, Tim. I mean, this is a big topic with him bringing up. I mean, we've been so focused on UFOs that we haven't really figured out about the whole NHI version, the non-human intelligence and or extraterrestrials, aliens, whatever you want to call them. So for Gary Nolan to kind of throw this wrench in front of a bunch of people who carry big paychecks, it's a pretty magnificent conversation.
Well, you just solved it, and I didn't even cut in. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's
but you just solved it, though, which what you just said. If there are preparing us to really, publicize or professionalize, what can the public actually deal with more? A spacecraft, some kind of technology, or a biological walking entity? So phase that out. Why not phase that out? Why not get everybody focused on flying objects and little orbs and all that? Because I'm telling you now, one of them land, ain't nobody saying nothing. No sugar, honey, iced tea. Nobody ain't gonna worry about it. But you let something get out of it walking on 3 or 4 legs, it's a whole different story. So anyway, sorry about that, Tim.
No, I agree 100% on that statement. That was very profound. And Dave, you're referring to the SALT Eye Connections conference that took place last Thursday in New York, and it was titled "The Pentagon, Extraterrestrial Intelligence and Crashed UFOs." And consider the statement that was made that Gary Nolan believes that not only that the phenomenon is here, but the U.S. government says that the extraterrestrial intelligence has not only visited Earth, but it's been here a long time and it's still here. And he also claimed that whistleblowers who have worked on the, quote, reverse engineered downed craft had recently given classified testimony to Congress, creating quite a hornet's nest in Washington. And so those are relatively bold statements without any real facts for the audience or the public. And so there's a lot of nail biting going on, right? That's a pretty bold statement coming from a revered scientist. And so we did see a slight backup on Twitter when he was challenged by other people. But at the same rate, it's kind of like the cat's already been let out of the bag at this point, and maybe Gary knows something that we don't, that's right on the horizon, because he does kind of infer that there are some facts yet to come, and it may prove out that Gary's going to be the last one laughing in this one.
Let me ask you guys this. Jason, and we'll start with you on this. Is Gary Nolan the 2023 version of Lou Elizondo 2021, 2022 before he went silent? Because Lou kept on dropping a bunch of bombs out there. And I'm not taking a shot at Lou here, okay? But he kept dropping a bunch of bombs out there that, hey, we got to wait until you see the full report. Wait until you see that 23-minute video. Wait until all of this opens up and all the information starts flowing. Wait. Are we seeing that with Gary Nolan now, Jason?
I would say yes and no. I think that Gary can maybe help move this along a little better because of his connections, because of the people he knows, other scientists. If serious scientists like himself and others step up to the plate and say, actually, there's validity there, even Avi Loeb saying that there's validity to this, we should actually investigate this seriously. And I think he'll bring some difference to this. But what I was going to say, the similarities between the two, or at least what I fear the most out of this, is that we light everybody on fire. You know, we want somebody to come out and, you know, speak and advocate for the truth. And in the minute that they do, we just turn on them so fast and light them on fire. And that's what I'm worried about with anybody right now coming forward. Even this whole disclosure, you know, supposed disclosure coming forward soon. You got a lot of celebrities in the UAP world that are trying to capitalize on this, saying, I'm the guy that knows all the answers. I can't tell you who told me this, but they told me stuff that I can't tell you, but trust me, I know. That is so annoying to hear. And unless you're going to back that up with some kind of evidence or proof, you still bring nothing to the table. You haven't contributed anything. So that's what we have to watch out for with this whole disclosure as well, is people trying to be the one that you know, runs the show, where in fact it's going to be coming from multiple angles and from multiple disciplines as well. It's not just the people in the Defense Department, but scientists as well, and educators, philosophers are starting to jump on board as well. So it's a huge movement.
All right, let's move over to you, Science Bob, and get your take on Gary Nolan, his statements, and whether or not he is the new face of the franchise.
I don't believe so, because he's not an insider. He hasn't worked for the Directorate of National Intelligence, and he hasn't worked for the military. So he's done some contract work for them. He's had a low-level security clearance. I just don't believe he can be privy enough to the inside and the higher circles to be trusted enough to be the new face. Of course, Lou quickly alienated himself to the people on the inside by helping sneak some videotapes outside, by following the procedures and just flying it under the radar until those videos were released. And those videos changed everything. And they went after Lou. And just so you're aware, I think most of the people in the audience are aware, and maybe if they're not, this is news. Lou is not working in the field anymore. He's doing something else altogether, because he's not working on the inside at all, or even working on the problem at all. This stuff has kind of come out. Okay, so I feel bad for Lou, because we owe him a lot in this community for what he did do along with Christopher Mellon. And I just feel bad for Lou. I hope he gets a whistleblower update to his situation and can go back to work doing the things he's good at. I just don't think Gary Nolan is going to be kind of the new leader, especially if on the government side. Now, Sean Kirkpatrick has basically told us he's going to tell us nothing, except until he has perfect science that explains every single thing there is, and he's not going to get it. And Avi Loeb has undermined himself, both with everyone else, but with me personally. So let's do the everything else stuff first. The everything else stuff first is he wrote a paper with Sean Kirkpatrick. So he's flushed his objectivity down the toilet by doing science with the enemy. Quote, enemy, unquote, because he wants the guy's money. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, he wrote a paper that he released recently where he detailed how all these observatories that he wants to put all over the place should work. Guess what? There's not a single sensor in that entire package that wasn't dreamed up by me, UAPTN, Skyhub or Sky 360, or Davenport with his passive radar, or Chris, what's his name, out in New Mexico, and those guys, Ox, who are doing the sensors that are being used out now at Skinwalker Ranch. All of the work Avi Loeb is claiming is new science, and because he got it in a referee journal, other people have proposed it and worked on it before. They are not really high in my estimation.
I have a quick question for you, Bob. The recent release that Galileo Project published, the first peer-reviewed science papers, I guess numbering around 8 or so. Have you had a chance to look those over?
Some of them, yes. Most of them, no.
And my understanding is these are reviewed papers, but they're basically just breakdowns of the projects that they're having. There's no results within any of these
None
papers.
whatsoever, because unlike Skyhub and Sky 360, we've actually written software and built hardware. Mm-hmm. He's done nothing except write a paper. Right. And he got a bunch of his science buddies to go and sign on to the paper and peer review it. Okay, and Peter Davenport, he proposed passive radar so we can track the things way back at a MUFON conference over a decade ago. I mean, it's not like this work hasn't already been done. They're just deciding to ignore us.
How do we keep it going? How does Gary Nolan keep that momentum going? I mean, when you're now coming out about statements, Marquise, that alien life here on Earth is happening right here, right now.
First, I want to thank you, Dave, for keeping me focused, because you guys don't understand. I have ADHD, and so everything that every one of you has said, I have thoughts about. Dave, thank you so much. Let me zero in here. Okay. I think we need to take a moment to do two things. One, recognize that we have a Stanford professor of immunology, one of the leading immunology professors in the world, who is, by the way, involved in working on what is considered metamaterial, which is the material that's from recovered spacecraft, from recovered craft that the UFOs, right? UAP, whatever you want to say. And he's saying unequivocally, and he has said, by the way, that this material couldn't have been made with thousands of human revolutions of technological advancements at all. We just couldn't do it. It would take millions of years to do what we're seeing has been done with this metamaterial. And then he comes out and says recently at that Seoul conference, I believe with 100% certainty that we are not here alone on this planet. I feel like this is being overlooked, because that's it. Like this, I was like, this is the thing. But it feels like there's like this, oh, that's not enough. That's not enough. I understand that for the public, that isn't enough, because they need to see a lot more. They don't understand. They don't read the data. They don't look at the papers, and they don't read all the new. They're not on that stuff. Most people they hear us, right? Or they don't even care about us or this topic. They're just living their life. So the idea that this Stanford professor, who is working on the metamaterial from crash to retrieval craft, is saying that he is observing something that makes him believe with 100% certainty that we are not alone, I think that's overlooked. That's the first thing. The second thing is to the Louis Elizondo situation, and I think that there is no comparison, because again, Louis he has been working on the projects and the programs for investigating the phenomena. He's run the programs. He's been involved with collecting the data and so forth, but he isn't the scientist, and so he's not the one deciphering the data that's being collected by the efforts that he's making to discover what's going on with this phenomena. Gary Nolan is. He's one of them. He worked with Jacques Vallée, who, by the way, is one of the scientists who first worked with the material in 1945 with the Trinity crash. So I feel like we need to really think about the credibility of the people coming forward and talking about these situations and what they're saying about the phenomena. That, I feel like, is the disclosure. It's like the prep for disclosure. But I think that when it comes to momentum, I think it's going to take an avalanche of other credible sources, including an official statement by the government, the DOD, the president, that we are not alone, and then of course subsequent data to back that up that the public will accept. And so I feel like that's the thing that's going to help push forward this idea of disclosure.
But Marquise, doesn't this split, this 50-50 split we keep hearing in Washington, D.C. between the pro and cons of disclosure and moving that ball forward, isn't that going to be an issue? I mean, Gary Nolan is very respected. He's fighting an uphill battle. And let's face it, I don't think any president right now in the past or potentially in the future wants to be the disclosure president.
Yeah,
I really don't.
I am frustrated by the fact that people are not considering why. What would be the thing, right? Disclosure isn't that we're not alone, by the way. That's not it. That's the beginning. But there's something about the idea of the phenomena that is terrifying. And I please forgive me, audience. I love you, and you guys. We love each other here. But I don't think that there is our space brothers are here to push us forward to another evolution of a consciousness only. I think there's something else too. I think that is one aspect for sure. There's too much evidence to show that someone is trying to show us something about what we're doing wrong here. I mean, the nukes turning on and off the nukes and say, they're not killing us. They're not out there, eating people. They're not here to take us all out. But there is something about the phenomena that is terrifying. Namely, the abduction experience, of course, as we all know, with the traumatic experience of abductees, that is not a positive thing. I don't care what anybody says. Even Whitley Strieber says it's terrifying, the idea of his abductions. And so I think that's that's another aspect we're ignoring, is that there's something about this that is absolutely terrifying. And it's not that we're alone.
All right, Roderick, you wanted to make a comment.
Yes. I think if we listen closely to what we say, now I'm more of a on the ground. I like to kind of deal with what's happening with the people on the ground. I do stay informed with the technical aspect, all the other side, but I think it's the people. And Marquise just said something as well. When we start talking about Gary versus Lou, or not versus, but just a comparison between the two. Okay, Lou Elizondo was a company man, so to speak. He took an oath. He still got that side that he has to protect. Gary came from a scientist side. He got conscious. He understands what's happening, and it takes it all the way back to what Marquise is saying about the thing that's happening with people, the abductions. What is Gary experienced that's totally different from everyone else? He worked on the bodies, not the alien bodies, but the bodies the military sent him who had exposure to aliens. He knows the consequences. He knows what's going on. He got the proof that the interaction between these two species or whatever is not working right? Mm-hmm. While we focusing on, and so he can come forward and say they've been here, guys, or I know they've been here because I was the one that they called to check out the pilots that was having issues from exposure to, and I'm examining bodies and saying that this is not scientific stuff that happens on Earth to these humans. It's out in the world, right? So he knows a little different. So his stance is totally different. He can't come out and say some of the things that he's saying because he has a conscience and he's dealing with it from a different level. He's never been the oath guy saying I'm going to protect the country, national security first, right? So,
except he's working with Kit Green.
Okay,
but Kit Green is a doctor. Kit Green is bound by HIPAA. He can't divulge people's private information. Right. So they're both constrained by law.
I will give you that. I will say that there is within some constraints, but I'm just using a human factor science, Bob, that Gary is a little more humanized than the rest of them, to where he's saying, I don't care.
Right.
Houston, there's a problem. They're here. You get what I'm saying? And that's what I love about him. I like about him. And that's one of the things.
Gentlemen, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because coming up next week, NASA is going to give their update, and I say that facetiously, on UFOs. I have a feeling this next half hour is going to be a little rough on NASA, because I know I'm coming off the top rope. I know Science Bob's coming off the top rope. We'll be back with more on Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, we're clear.
Did you see those stupid fucking questions they're going to bring up in this conference?
Oh yeah.
It's fucking ridiculous.
Hey, does anybody know what UAP?
Here we go.
UAPist is? Like,
UAPist.
yeah, did we find out what that is?
It's actually unidentified aerial or unidentified anomalous phenomenalist. That's what I found out.
Look, they're trying to completely make it this huge amorphous blob so they don't have to worry about UFOs.
Yeah, phenomenal. I had to look it up too. I was like, what does that even mean? Is that even a word? Yeah, it's phenomenalist. Which
Do you know what it is? It's like that street hustler that has the 3 cups in the ball, and he's like,
"Oh yeah,
oh,
which one?" That's exactly what they're doing.
Science, Bob.
Yeah,
I think you'll appreciate. I think you'll appreciate this. It's gobbledygook. That's what it is.
Gobbledygook. Gobbledygook. Technobabble. Gobbledygook.
There we go. I feel like I've been watching this guy who has that Jason, please help me out here. The guy you just released a video about him in NASA, the NASA video, the space,
Darcy
the
Weir.
fast walkers,
Yeah,
freaking
fast walkers.
phenomenal interview, man. So that was a great interview. I'm just gonna be honest. I really liked
Darcy's latest 3 videos. They're amazing. The TR-3B, the Apollo 1 through whatever it is, and then the one I was in, which is the Fast Walkers. He did a great job. These last 3 videos.
Yeah, and I think that kind of brings up the idea that the fact that NASA is jokingly, mockingly doing a new study on this phenomena, that they should just not. I think they would have been better off not doing anything than doing this. It's like if I always use the analogy of the girlfriend cheating. She's cheating on you. She's deleted all the messages, and she's like, "I'm gonna investigate this cheating on you factor, and I'll let you know what I find out." You got the messages.
I think everybody here knows, and if you don't know, I'll just tell you. Chris Bledsoe and I are friends, and I trust Chris implicitly. And Hal Povenmire, NASA scientist, basically, I think was tasked to debunk him, came to Chris and fell in love with him and his family. And he told Chris all about the airbrush photographs, all about the bases on the back of the moon. And I don't mind telling you that because Hal Povenmire fell on his driveway, did damage to his brain and died. So I don't mind telling you what he told Chris Bledsoe, which we know about the aliens on the moon.
Yeah. I mean, the Apollo mission this is the most ridiculous thing in the world. The idea that NASA lost the Apollo mission footage. I don't curse on stream, but use your imagination at the level. I just want to speak in pure profanity at this point about that because it's ridiculous. Stop playing games with us. It's a huge gaslight to the world. Yeah, we've been.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah, there's no video footage. Everything just happened to be a coincidence. Yeah,
and all this found footage about the Apollo stuff and the landings on the moon, the trips to the moon, and there's UFOs in every one of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to that.
The infrared cameras that were attached to the shuttle and the space station. There's UFOs in every one of them.
My issue is that there's not enough corroborating data and witnesses that are still alive anyway that can really substantiate a claim about the history of NASA's.
And that's what they are trying to do is run out the clock.
That's the problem.
But that's why they want the window to begin in 2004. Everybody knows history probably is one of the biggest cover-ups in the world, right? Anytime you're doing history. And the major stuff that got all of us intrigued was what's happening in the 40s, the 50s, and what was going on back then, because nothing surprises us now. And if they can shut off that part and begin here, then they can control a whole different narrative when they want to put a starting point. We should be asking for everything.
Yeah.
From day one.
Ask an average citizen to ask these questions to NASA, and you'll get better questions than what they actually have on the docket there or on the list of questioning.
I mean,
I cannot believe it. I cannot.
We know people that were around when Emmenegger was trying to build the film with the footage of the craft landing at Holloman Air Force Base right before they met Dwight Eisenhower. We know, and there's 12 seconds of that video in the film that actually came out, and so, Richard Nixon was trying to be the disclosure president.
Bob, the problem is that there is discrepancy about the footage now. Now there's claims that footage is not actual authentic footage from that from the event. It's different footage. I don't know all the details as of yet. I just found out today, but allegedly that footage is not authentic to this situation. Doesn't mean it's not out there. It means that the footage that was released on the documentary, that little 7-minute video that we hear about, that's not the actual footage from that event, from what we were told.
Well, the documentary I'm talking about, it was an over an hour long.
Wow.
And it was released under Richard Nixon's direction.
Yeah. That's the one the one with the light descending from the sky.
Yeah.
That's the one that people are claiming recently is not authentic footage from that event. I don't know for sure, man. There's a lot of debunkers out there. That's what's been frustrating for me lately is the debunking.
Well, we're never going to get to the bottom of it now. It's too late.
No. All right, guys, we got 23 seconds. Thank you for your mind, Deb, Science, Bob, Becky, and Louie for the amazing super chats. And we very much appreciate the love and support. So thank you so much. And let's kick off hour number 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. Here we go. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live at KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Oclophobia. Oclophobia is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with our roundtable tonight, taking a look at the month that was and what is coming in the world of UFOs. Joining us tonight from the UAP Studies Podcast, Jason Gilman, Tim Senor from the UFO Report. From our weekend show, After Hours, we got Marquise Williams. Science Bob is here. And from Why the Big Secret, Roderick Martin. And coming up on the 31st of May, we have a giant conference, public conference from NASA, where they're going to get into what they have learned after a $100,000 waste of money called their UAP study. And they brought in scientists from around North America to break this all down. And not a single person over that time has asked, hey, Bill Nelson, head of NASA, what's in your closet? Where did all your videos go? How did Darcy Weir, a movie director, a documentarian out of Vancouver, British Columbia, be able to get audio from astronauts stating that they are being followed by anomalous objects in space, but you can't find a damn thing in your own closet? To me, and I've been very vocal about this, NASA has made this whole UFO subject a giant joke. And the fact that they are towing the party line on this is worse than anything Justin Trudeau has ever done, in my opinion. And that says a lot in this country.
Dave, how dare you?
I know, I went there.
As a fellow Canadian, yeah.
I went there. But nonetheless, let's get into it, because they asked the public to fill in a bunch of questions. I know I put in a bunch of questions that I wanted to be asked, and the most lame 8 questions were asked by the public. Now, Science Bob, I know as a scientist, as a former member of the CIA, the former member of the NRO, a person who has his name on over 20 satellites in space, you are furious about this. Furious.
The questions are a joke. I mean, they don't address any real aspect of the problem. And what they've done is basically they're going to say, okay, we've met all this time. We spent $100,000 and here's what we care about. But by the way, you got to give us $100 million for us to do anything useful. It's ridiculous. And Darcy Weir released more in 3 documentaries than they're going to release in the next year.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. Bob, as someone who has dealt with NASA, as someone who has dealt with rocketry and space and everything that you have done in your lifetime, I mean, how do they get away with this? How can they legally pull the wool over the public's eyes as blatantly as they are, and yet the public is taking this verbatim?
Well, the people that are coming to testify in front of them or give talks in front of them, etc., none of them are sitting down and answering questions under oath. They're appearing voluntarily and saying what they want to say. That's number one. And NASA knows that 99.9% of the people who will ever even listen, most people won't listen, but those that will listen, they can just pull the wool over their eyes as if nothing was ever heard from before, because they will be asleep at the switch and too lazy to go find out for themselves.
All right, let's go to Jason Guillemette here. Your opinion, Jason?
I think that NASA's known that something's not right. Like we all know that something's not right. We know that these objects can be, I think Kevin Day mentioned that they could go from 80,000 feet to 5 feet above the water within a fraction of a second. And we all know that. We've seen them move in the skies. A lot of us have seen it with our eyes. And that's a fascinating thing about this phenomenon. I think that even I was thinking about the whole disclosure thing. And what's insulting is, as an adult, I don't know about you guys, I'm 42 years old now. But as a 42-year-old, I know most things that other people know, right? Except there's other adults that are keeping secrets about what reality really is from the rest of us adults, as if we're children.
Right.
There should be no gatekeepers in this. This is bigger than government. This is bigger than military, bigger than the people we elect to deal with our crap. We didn't ask them to deal with this. They're dealing with it, and they're the ones keeping it secret. This is a human problem. It's a global problem. It's not just occurring in one country, but all countries. Everybody's experiencing the same phenomenon. This is a human issue. And morally, I think it's right to tell the people that, look, we have no control over this. And this has got to be at least a class 2 civilization, right? Above our pay grade. We're trying hard to reverse engineer their stuff, but man, they're light years ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
And just admitting that if they want to come and go as they please, there's nothing that we can do about it. There's nothing in the military that's going to save them from taking you in the middle of the night. They come and go as they please, and they do that 24/7 around the world. Disclosure needs to be brought forward just because it's the moral right thing to do. And there's 2 disclosures. There's that of our government and military, and theirs. Right? If we have another Phoenix Lights incident now in 2023 with all the technology and cameras we have, it will be a done deal. Everybody will see it. Everybody will know. And the cat's out of the bag at that point. So we got to look forward to two disclosures, if you will.
All right, let's bring in Marquise here. What's your thoughts?
So, this is what I think that they have masterfully done the social engineering necessary to keep the public from being even able to ask the right questions or even being able to pay attention to these things. I think that our society is structured in such a way that we don't have enough time or energy, most people, to add the idea of the gravity of what it means to not only what it means to be human, but what are we not alone, and what does that mean? I mean, these are big questions, and they're quite heavy if you think about them. I mean, look at what it does to us, right? We are consumed by this information, and we constantly have to consume information to find the truth. I think they've done a great job at engineering society so that people they can't do it. So the idea that they've concocted this alleged attempt at investigating it, which we know is a joke, it does make sense, and it's perfect for whatever effort they have when it comes to disclosing partially the narrative that they want. But I still think it's important for us to really think about what it is that they're afraid to tell us. I've been spending a lot of time looking at Peter Levenda's work, and I think that, and when it comes to NASA and the history of NASA's involvement with engaging the phenomena, it's quite dark. The phenomena doesn't have to be dark, but NASA's engagement with it is quite dark. And I think that is probably the aspect of the phenomena they're trying to keep out of the conversation. The history of it is, we're talking everything from drawing pentagrams on the floor to summon UFOs and aliens to doing literal rituals to try to contact these beings. I'm not kidding. The seances, the rituals, throughout these clandestine groups have been doing things. And this isn't speculation or just woo stuff. I mean, this is a real history of NASA and the US government, their involvement with psychic programs that do things like this to try to contact beings from another dimension or whatever. I think that's the aspect of the phenomena that is being kept from the public. And they're trying to find a clean way to tell people that we're not alone and ease them into the idea of what that really means. That's kind of where I'm really, really believing at this point that there has to be something that they're afraid of that they don't want to talk about.
They do not want to talk about hybridization experiments and that we are being taken willy-nilly and can't control it.
Well, there's a lot of aspects to it, and the one thing, Marquise, that I will say to this is I have a tough time believing anything Peter Levenda says, considering that his statistics have been so skewed by comparatively to anything else, especially the free experiencers by Renario Hernandez, that says 84% of all contact has been great, and people would love to have it again. I think up to 90% people say they would love to have contact again. I think Peter Levenda pushes quite a narrative on that aspect. So, I mean, I'm a little
does the same thing,
suspect on that.
Yeah, Jacques Vallée does the same. This is what's giving me a hard time of making sense of the phenomena. Jacques Vallée mentioned the idea that we may be looking at a single entity that is trying to communicate with us human beings in all these different expressions: reptilians, grays, Nordic whites from Zeta Reticuli, in a deceptive way, but only because that's how we can accept their presence, because the true nature of the phenomena could just be too much for us to handle. And so it's not just Peter Levenda who's thought about the idea of the phenomena manipulating human perception and culture for whatever aim, but I think that, I defer back to people like that who have mentioned things like we perceive those things as dark. Like, again, I mentioned Whitley Strieber. You listen to his stories. Communion wasn't a book you can read at nighttime. I think we can all agree that although he says there's a positive aspect to the phenomena, he still has trouble sleeping at night. I think we need to acknowledge that. And so it's not that it's all bad and that Peter Levenda is just projecting this negative aspect on the positive aspects that people are claiming to have. I think that there needs to be an understanding that although there is a positive outcome for people who want a repeat event, I've mentioned the Stockholm syndrome, where someone who is being groomed to believe that their abuser is the one that loves them, that's taking care of them. That is an aspect of the phenomena, regardless of what people want to believe.
I agree with you on that, but don't forget, though, Peter Levenda also has a very popular fan who has multi-millions of followers on social media, who has rocked those same claims without any type of proof whatsoever, and that's Tom DeLonge. Tom DeLonge, private. Okay, Tom DeLonge, previous to the Two to the Stars Academy, just days before, tried to buy the free experiencers statistics at Renario Hernandez. Thankfully, never sold them to him, because if he did, those stats would have been buried for a false truth of ET contact, where almost 5,000 people took that study. and 84% stated that they were wanting more contact. Sorry to cut you off there, Marquise. Roderick, let's get your thoughts on NASA.
Well, I think that, as always, I listen to all of you collectively and, the technical side of things, the research. I still try to, even when I do my content, even when I talk on my shows and even some of the programs that I put together, I'm more concerned on not so much what's going on in our skies, right? And not so much who's controlling those things, what's happening with the people on the ground. And when you start thinking about the total principle of NASA, the playbook that everybody's using is to pretend, it's like a statement, pretend to tell them something, but the something is nothing, right? And they work that with a science. What I think that we all, or what I focus in, and I think we can all put that at the bottom layer, is what they're afraid of and what they know is the bigger picture. It was already in the Why the Big Secret when we looked at Men in Black, when Will Smith sat at the bench when the first time he was exposed, and Tommy Lee Johnson. He says, why the big secret? People are smart. And that's really what inspired the name of my show. And he looked at him, he said, a person is smart, but people are dumb, stupid, blah, blah, blah. They just can't handle it. And you go all the way back to NASA themselves commissioning the Brookings Institution back in the 60s for the Brookings Report, right? That was what started it all. When that report came back on page 238, I think, and said, tell them nothing, because the people can't handle it. And they still understand that today. And this is why I know the extraterrestrials operate on a higher intelligence, because they know if they stepped out of that craft, they will destroy everything. And although we got military, we got law enforcement, they do not outnumber the people. And this is why you heard Gary saying things like the Vatican are still trying to figure out how to control the people through religion, and saying, oh yeah, they're Christians too, the alien. That's the whole deal. It's the bottom level. And that's where I'm going is, we are okay. All of us here are okay. Everybody who's listening will possibly be okay. But we got to start focusing on those wanderers out there who could turn militant in a heartbeat, outnumber all of us, okay, and now everybody's crazy. And when everybody is crazy, we can't handle that. And let's not make everybody crazy and really want the disclosure we think we want. I'm not really prepared for that. I don't think that any of you or me will get on an airplane tomorrow and we get up there and we get off, and they hand you this pamphlet and says, because of disclosure, we just want you to know we ran across a UAP. Yeah, it turns off the instrument panel, but we had some great pilots. They was able to duck and dive. Who's getting back on the next flight? And then what happens to the economy? Yeah. But that's disclosure, though. We want to know what's happening up there. So right before you get on the plane, you get your brochure, Dave, and he says, by the way, the last flight, they almost crashed, but it's okay because we have real pilots. In fact, the AI took over and landed the plane, and everybody's okay. But it's that same route. We having troubles on the same route. Yes, we still got to fly that route to get you to New York, Dave, but you're going to be okay. You getting on the plane?
That's a good analogy.
But that's disclosure that you really want. So do we really want everything? And I don't think we're ready for that. And they know.
Yeah. I was going to say, to add to that, with the United States, the biggest problem is that it's a very well-armed country, right? Mm-hmm. So you start disclosing that these guys are real, that it's non-human, they'll have
all around you.
Yeah, people start shooting at planes and helicopters.
Everybody.
Yeah. Right? I think my neighbor's an alien.
Yeah, exactly.
It's over.
That guy's a hybrid. I'm going to blow him away. I want to jump in once and amplify something Marquis said. I know Whitley Strieber's story because I sat in New York and heard him tell it. And Whitley may say, well, I think it's okay now. But he also told us the physical infirmities he lives with daily that are caused by the phenomenon that are horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
And he talking about from behind here. I got Whitley in my phone. We talk. He tells that anal story.
Okay? Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah. And that's painful. That and so
Especially for a
are
man.
we ready for that? We go to prison. People go to prison. Don't want to talk about that. But when an alien, and like y'all were just saying, Jason, everybody was just saying, what's the deal when somebody think they shot an alien? They can't go to prison for that today. Oh, I shot him. He was an alien. I thought he was an alien.
I thought he was.
The alien better not come to Florida because they've got stand your ground. So they have stand your ground in Florida. They can shoot all the aliens.
It's on the ground level. It's the ground level.
Well, the idea behind NASA playing games with the public, I think we all, Tim, need to realize that there are two sides to NASA. There is the public perception side of sending rockets into space and setting satellites up there, and the Apollo missions that are 50 plus years old and all the pride that went along with them. But there's a very secretive dark side of NASA for space satellites, space weaponry, whatever they may have that we haven't seen. I mean, truth be told, like Science Bob stated earlier, Darcy Weir has done more in 3 videos to prove that NASA is hiding UFO interaction than NASA has ever admitted in their lifetimes.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you add it all together, this study, even though it's only $100,000, whatever comes out on May 31st, in my opinion, is going to be absolutely baseless towards moving the subject anywhere forward. In fact, I think it more so gives NASA more plausibility of deniability that this is a phenomena that may be happening, but we're not sure really what it is.
Oh, Dave, you're so predictable. Anyways, I have to say your boy's going to be there. So I got my application for a press pass. I expect to be there live. And I had a question. It didn't make it to the initial 12 or whatever it is, but I plan on asking my question live, the same one that I posed multiple times, which is if NASA is looking into the history and the quotes from their own astronauts, and if they plan on making that public. It's pretty simple. It's not a big question, but it's needing to be answered. And so I'm going to hope to be in line. I'll take something along that line up to the front. And if I have more than one, I'll ask more than one, but I'm prepared. And the fact is we need to remain open-minded because this is a team of open-minded people, 16 community experts across a diverse area on matters relevant to potential methods of study for the UAP phenomenon. So let's just wait and see what we can drag out of these people. They probably don't know a lot. And the fact is, it takes sometimes community members with knowledge to inform them. And maybe one of my questions can bring up something. Maybe one of the community members' questions can bring up something that has to be publicly answered.
Tim, I'm sorry. Yeah, I gotta say, because they're Buzz Aldrin. I want to just a couple quotes here. Edgar Mitchell said in 2008, I happen to be privileged enough to be on one of the facts that we have been visited on this planet and the UFO phenomena is real. Yes, there have been ET visitations. Gordon Cooper, same thing. I believe that these extraterrestrial vehicles and their crew are visiting this planet from other planets. Buzz Aldrin, same thing. There was, and we can do this, and we're talking since 1985, since we're talking way back when. Edgar Mitchell, they know. I will not accept the idea that they don't know because it's impossible. They are playing like they don't know. And I do understand the idea that there's compartmentalization and only certain people know. But when it comes to the astronauts, they're up there, man. They know. There's no way they don't.
See, Tim, if they let me like trade places with you and you had like one question, and of course they're going to know I'm not you, they're going to. But the whole point, I will be sitting there and I'll do exactly what they do. I'll say, hey, I have a question. I want to know, tell me a little bit about file 2685 about the transmission and the visual effects of seeing the extraterrestrials on the moon. Right. I'm just making it up like they do. Right. But what it's going to do, though, they're going to sit there and look at each other like, he knows something we don't know. Because you're just going to rock the boat. Right. And then they're going to have to explain something that don't exist, like they already have been trying to explain something. And then they're going to look around trying to ask questions. Does this guy have access to something that we don't know about? and it's just going to stir up the trouble. That's all I would do. Just ask something crazy.
We'll continue with the NASA talk, and we'll fill in a little bit more of the blanks on the UFO story coming up as the second half of the SOR Roundtable continues with our fantastic panel tonight. Stay tuned. Lots more Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this. All right. Blocksville, Tennessee, welcome to SOR Chat, and happy birthday to you. Hi, Phil the Stalker. And Nucker, yes, Vegas in 6. Vegas in 6. They got to get through Dallas first. They got to finish off Dallas tomorrow. They have to. There's no choice.
You know, I keep wondering, like, I always compare, like, what's the comparison to the level of secrecy? And people have compared this to, like, you know, the atomic bomb, you know, the Manhattan Project. This is higher than that. The level of secrecy is higher than that. I just feel like the fact that the most devastating and destructive, you know, power that the human race has, there's a higher level of classification than that. And again, I know that I don't want to be doom and gloom, but I think that whatever it is must be not good. It can't be. Religion. And I can't imagine that the idea that and again, take this with a grain of salt when I say it, that the idea that there's something good here isn't a scary thing. That's not going to disrupt the world. People believe that now. There's people that believe all kinds of things about good beings out there. I think I just feel like there has to be something that they're afraid of. I don't think good stuff.
I can tell you, from my opinion, it's the one thing that goes back to the beginning of time, religion. You know, what controls billions, 5 billions of people right now for not stamping on each other? It's some type of religion, belief, or something.
It seems like it's doing the exact opposite right now.
Yeah, but the whole point is when you got the Vatican, who are the big secret keepers, that's one of the people we call. And like when they said with Gary was, you know, they're trying to figure out how they will tell the world if the aliens came. Well, okay, they are Christians too, or their souls need to be saved too, because it's the only thing. But if that changes, and there's no repercussion for knocking off the bank, no repercussions for starving the dog, you know, or whatever, it's a done deal for everything, because now we turn on ourselves. And so, yeah, we got law enforcement to keep people in line. But what keeps the law enforcement person from not turning on you? Well, he has morals. He has really, you know, so if the religion side of things break down because we don't understand who is God and what is God, or what is the bigger picture, that's the biggest fear. And then, of course, we know technology when it comes down to tech and the economy, because, you know, for you know, we all want free energy, but, you know, we ain't ever seen a UFO stop for gas, right? So we know we know it has free energy. But what would that do to society? So I think what most people, and that's how I think about it. I think about it from a global perspective of the people. What happens to the minds of the people when this thing happens, or if they unveil too much or don't. And so far, somebody understands at a bigger level that the biggest fear is unleashing the people. And if you do that, you can't control the world. It's over and done with. The few can't control the many, because, you know, so that's the biggest fear, is how do we let the lions and the sheep run around with each other, and all of a sudden the sheep says, wait a minute, it's 6 billion of us, it ain't but 300,000 lions. We may lose a few, but we can take them.
Yeah, I mean, that reality, who killed the electric car, right? In what was it? I can't remember the year, but who killed the electric car, that documentary that talked about how GM had an electric car back then that could travel further than what what Tesla does, and with less need for a charge. And yet today we're like, right, with just electric, without gas at all.
EV1.
What is it?
EV1.
Yeah, and the man who was the man who he created the hydraulic, or the hydrogen powered car. Next, you know, he gets bought up by his office gets burnt down and the patents get classified. I mean, how, like, we have had this knowledge that there is a greater way for society to exist. The Venus Project, one of the greatest movements of all time, at least in current history. The Venus Project and the Zeitgeist movement, the idea of a resource-based economy where we can have this utopia. We know there are possibilities for a better civilization. We have been convinced that this is the better solution, that communism is bad and that, you know, socialism is bad and all these different ideas are bad because they help people, and helping people is bad because if you help people, they won't. We got to be grit. We got to have grit, and we got to get our hands dirty. The idea that we can live in a utopia is the antithesis of what human beings today believe is human, freedom. And so I don't know. I have a hard time accepting the idea that it is liberation that is the fear of the government.
I gotta cut you off right there. Thank you, Louie, Becky, Bob, Deb times 2, and Free Your Mind for the super chats. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you haven't already, and let's rock and roll the second half right now. Second half of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Roundtable tonight, and it's a good one. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott, your host extraordinaire. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We're continuing with the NASA talk tonight. UFO Reports Tim Senor is here. Why the Big Secret? Roderick Martin. Go hit subscribe on his YouTube channel. Science Bob is here. So is After Hours host Marquise Williams. And from UAP Studies Podcast, Jason Gilmet. And, you know, we could take this NASA thing very much in stride with what is going on in the current face of ufology. I mean, the idea that there is an entire faction of people who are supposed to be experts in space science, Bob, who are pulling the wool over the public's eyes. What do you think NASA has to lose by telling the truth? You brought up Darcy Weir's documentaries and the great voices, including that of an X-15 pilot who had a craft following him at 315,000 feet. I know that because I did the voiceover on that documentary. So I'm pretty familiar with it. Bob, take it away.
Okay, so a lot of people don't understand how NASA operates in the government. There is a law called the Space Act, and NASA is required to operate under the Space Act. And the Space Act has this provision that if they stick their toe in something that might harm national security or get in the way of national defense, they get squashed. So this was used to put the button pusher on the video and the audio on every transmission for space to ground. There's a person that sits there and has a button to turn it all off if a UFO comes on or whatever. And that's part of the Space Act. People just don't understand how their government has set this up and works. So NASA is constrained outside of its own choice, and they can't afford to mess with anybody because they have to get their budget or they can't do anything. No bucks, no Buck Rogers. So they have to protect themselves and their bureaucracy, or they have no program.
Bob, I want to ask you one more question before we get back to the panel. Why then last year would Bill Nelson, the executive director, former astronaut, I believe former senator, stick his neck out into the UFO game and into the UFO world when he really didn't have to? He's the one who brought it up. Nobody in his initial press conference brought it up. He's the one who brought NASA into this mess. Was that calculated, or was that something that he just wanted to play in the game because all the rest of the big boys were starting to play in the UFO game?
I think he wanted to play in the game. That's for certain. Everybody wants to be riding the wave of the big new thing. But I also think that Bill Nelson, who was senator forever and then an astronaut when he could be, was asked to play a role. And the role he has been asked to do is to slow roll out NASA's involvement, because the DNI and the Pentagon, they're not going to do science. NASA is the only entity that can deal with things coming in from space or operating in the upper reaches of space above 100,000 feet. They're the only agency that has any standing to do science there. That's it. They're the only one.
It's the money.
It's the money.
It's the money.
It's all about the money. They want to do science.
They said, hey, can you get us in the game? How can you bring us in the fray so we can get some of that money? Everybody's talking about it. All right, well, we can make something up. All we need to do is just bring us in, and then people are going to want us to be involved because we are NASA, and then also give us some of that appropriation money. You know, it's the money, and they still going to tell us something, but something is nothing, and we're going to fall for it. We're going to go for it. But you know, I think I've said this before, but I have a kind of a thing for the whole panel. You know, all of us, there's 6 of us. We can consider ourselves a panel. And let's just say, once again, Dave, all of us were sitting on the board of Exxon. We just got there, though. They just replaced the last 6 people and put us on there. Now, tomorrow, our family's going to be worth billions of dollars. Our grandkids, the kids that ain't born yet, is like, can't wait to come back in the souls to be part of our lineage. You know what I'm saying? But in walks this alien who says, time is up. Not time is up, but I want to give y'all the recipe for free energy. Now we clapping because we all like, until Marquez whisper in my ear and say, Rod, did he say free energy? We ain't gonna be no billionaires. And I'm gonna be like, he did say that, didn't he? And then I'm gonna look over you, Dave, and say, hey, you know the boat you talk about buying, if you give us free energy, there's no Exxon is over with. All of a sudden, we take a consensus and we give the security guard the cue. The scene goes dark, the door locked, no more Akbar, right? Because that's it. And back on planet Xeon, Akbar's friends who's lining up talking about who's gonna go save Earth, they cheering until somebody said, oh, what happened to Akbar? Didn't he go save him? Well, they killed him. And you're like, what? Oh, I ain't going. We ain't gonna save them earthlings. You get it's the money. So it's like, and I don't know what decision I would make if I'm NASA, or they're gonna cut off the whole program if we tell the truth, and they go, oh, we're gonna shut y'all off. So now we got 40,000 people out of work, no more blah blah. Just how do you lose?
So not only free energy, but what if they tell us how to do? What if they tell us how to do portals? You don't need NASA if you got a damn portal.
You don't need FedEx no more, right? You be like, okay, we just send it to the package.
In other words, if we get free energy and free transportation and free this, and all want and need is over, the people who control us have just lost control.
And that's what I was saying. And that's the position even we were sitting there. I'm not saying we all would make that decision, right. But if they had to do that, somebody made a decision, said, oh, really? You're not. You're gonna give me free energy, and take, for example, we talk about the big stuff. Like you said something earlier, Dave, of like there's a movie coming out called White Mountain. Y'all heard of that, right?
Yeah.
It's a documentary with former President Barack Obama and his wife with the Betty and Barney Hill story. So that's gonna change a lot of dynamics, hopefully in my community, that we're gonna be like, oh, what? Aliens are real if they go there. But just what happened yesterday, Beyonce and Jay-Z bought a $200 million World War II house bunker.
Yeah.
Who told them to say, hey, you got all the money in the world, but this house right here, which is the ugliest thing in the planet, you need this because something is coming. Mm-hmm. So you get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So are they talking to aliens? Are they in the loop? I don't know, but the rich seems to know something we don't know.
Yeah. Peppers with bucks.
It's not only the rich.
Extreme.
I mean, I know an experiencer very well that tell me something's coming. I know 2 of them. They tell me
Same.
something's coming. They tell me when.
There you
Same.
go.
Yeah. I mean, John Ramirez said that 2027 is
2020,
there's-
2026, 2027, and the day doom on is 6 years from now. That's what you hear.
Yeah. So that's all. We just got to understand from the human side of things, and what would we do? What would we do for our families? How will we protect ourselves? Not from the aliens, from everybody else who's going crazy.
Go cuckoo.
Yeah, you're going to understand if our society breaks down from what is holding in the glue, and it is hard right now. And we know that the young people, I feel, are religiously and spiritually, not spiritually, but religiously and emotionally bankrupt. They're okay spiritually. That's the whole feeling. They don't know what's happening. But that other side of that fence is what's breaking us down, because, you know, we use the term people being woke or consciousness, but there are some people out there having some experiences. Like Whitley would say, hey, there ain't no God keeping him from going back here. You know, nobody, he came and got me because they just wanted to, you know. And we talking about reptilian stories, right? We still got to go back there, and we still trying to, you know, pass that to the side. And we're focusing on some aircraft, and we got all these stories of Montauk and reptilians hanging out, and they can come through walls, and it's just like, whether I worry about a spacecraft or I want the dude that's coming through my wall, you know, in a white beater, you know, looking like a lizard. Yeah, I that's what I'm worried about. You know.
Roderick, I want to come on your show, man. And I want to come on your show, Roderick. That's going to be fun.
Come on with it, because if they get hungry, I'm afraid they're going to eat people like me and Dave first.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
I'll be safe. I'm a tiny little human, man. I'm not even.
No, but you know what? I forgot though. See, they will probably take the healthy, because during the cattle mutilation stuff, they're leaving this 800 pounds beef alone. So me and Dave may be okay. They may want you healthy.
Dang, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Way to kill my hope, brother.
Yeah, they don't want all this beef. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know.
See, this is why people. This is why people like Roderick and I don't go near the ocean, because we are.
Oh man,
we are a deal.
They size us up.
We're not a toothpick like you, Marquise, or Tim.
Oh, no.
You
I'm like
know,
a baby seal, man.
You're a deal. And the minute our pinky toes touch that salt water, them sharks are coming.
Oh,
they already
man.
smell.
That's Marquise is the appetizer. Yeah,
I'm definitely just an appetizer. I'm a small human, man.
Oh man, let's continue on with the round table. Tim, you've been awfully quiet over there. Let's get your opinion.
Yeah, I think the big message I'm kind of feeling at this point in time is it's really important to be aware and be ready to dodge that grift, because you know it's coming, and anything that's attached to those dollar signs, if you feel like you're being sold something, you're probably being sold something. So I would just say be super aware of the information and where it's coming from right now, because who knows? Consider, for example, details came recently from the debrief about a mysterious object that was released during the test flight of an experimental Chinese space plane that landed just this month. And they were among several potential threats from space addressed in a recent report issued by a Washington-based think tank. And part of this is saying that there was something large that was following this Chinese space plane. How are we sourcing this information? How is it being reported on? We're hearing things from the Ukraine and Russia all over the planet. It's not just being experienced by the United States of America.
Yeah.
But my big question is, how much of this is spin? How much of this is DOD misinformation to try and continue that quote unquote threat narrative? And how much is absolutely real alien craft coming from another planet, if that's even really what we're looking at? It's super frustrating. And so it's great to be talking about it publicly. And even recently, we got a great drop from Jeremy Corbell. Now we know they pre-plan everything they drop far ahead of time. So this wasn't something that was new information. However, It was something that was easily debunked within 12 hours. That's super frustrating for this community.
I disagree. I disagree
I
with the
understand, but
debunking altogether.
and that's great, but do you see that ripple effect that takes place after a drop like this?
Yeah.
And so my point is not whether it's real or whether it's not. It's to be aware and to consider all aspects. I'm not saying it's flares. I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying, how deep does the cover go?
Yeah.
And how do you know when to stop digging? It's incredibly frustrating. And so, Bob, I appreciate you coming to the defense. I'm not by any stretch saying that this is a debunkable thing, but it was quickly debunked within 12 hours, almost as if there was a preparation already ready to go.
They had John. They had John on their side from the Black Vault. So the problem with that particular story is that flares don't take 15 minutes to drop. No. So it might have been something on a drone, but it was definitely not flares. And the people who were doing the observing fire flares for their job all the time.
Oh, for sure. And my point is simply that we are being bombarded in the media right now from all different sources, credible, brand new sources, old sources, and new. And so, Roderick, I'm curious for maybe your opinion right off the bat. How do you weed through the noise to get through to what you feel is fact?
Well, I think what I try to do is you go back to like the old movies, Tim, and trust no one, especially in that space, right? And so, like I always tell my audience, your eyes are useless when your mind is blind. You got to think why. We got to stop focusing on what. It goes back to George Orwell, right? 1984, when he says, I know how they're doing this and what they're doing. I just don't know why. And we don't get the public to ask the why questions. Everybody always talking about what we saw, what they're doing, how they doing it. But you better start saying why. And if you open up that Pandora's box, then we can go anywhere. Now it changes dynamics on all of this. And so that's all I do, Tim. I just ask why. Why are we seeing it this way? And they want us to see it this way because everything, like you said, just like Jeremy, everything is constructed. They already know how they're going to put everything out. We know these big secret keepers are well more organized than that, right? We got to ask why. That's all I do. So to get through the noise, I start asking why, and that usually tends to lead, maybe some rabbit holes, but there's always light down those holes. And so that's the great part of it.
I want to add that there has to be a reason. There has to be a reason why Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp are always outing the stories that Susan Goff confirms a day or two later.
It's a reason.
There's a reason.
And
because there's a connection. And if you're not asking what the source is for what Corbell puts out, when Susan Goff says it's real 3 or 4 days later, you're a moron.
You made a great point, Bob. You got to ask why. We can't just focus no longer on what they're telling us and how it's going. You got to bag up and like, why are they even saying that? Why? How and why these people are doing this, or why?
Let's make sure our audience knows that Susan Goff is the Pentagon spokesperson.
Yeah, she's the one who denied it. Yeah.
Yes, she's the one. She's been the thorn in the side of the impending disclosure since Elizondo and Mellon got the videos out.
How do you feel, Jason, about that? How to weed through the noise to get to the truth?
Primarily, I think my focus, or at least my thinking on this, has always been focused on the abductees, right? Because the abductees are the ones having experiences with these entities. They're being brought back, right? These people are relatively safe. I mean, Marquise, you've had an experience, but you're brought back, and it's psychologically, it will affect you, no doubt. But they bring people back. There's some sort of compassion there for us. And why do we forget the experience? Why do they block the memory? Is it to save us from mental harm because we're very fragile mentally and this is an alien experience and it fractures the mind? Or is it that they don't want us to remember anything about what they're doing, their operations, because it's not I don't think it's evil, but this is for a purpose. Even I mentioned this several times on the podcast. These crafts, most of the time, have a room or rooms that are specifically designed to have a human lay on this table. And there's machinery and all types of gadgets and tech that comes out of the walls, all designed to do something on a human. Do you know how expensive that would be as an operation to do that globally? So obviously, if they had ill intention towards us, they would just send you out the airlock when they're done. When we start exploring space and we take some creature for the first time off world, do you think we're going to bring it back to the hut that we got it from? Hell no, we're humans. That thing goes out the window, right? And they're not doing that to us, right? Even you hear stories of people having illnesses, diseases, and then they don't have it anymore after their experience. Why would they bother to heal somebody, right? So there's a threat narrative that we hear from the military and the government. I understand that that's their job. That's what we elected them to do. But from the civilian side, it's like, I'm not sure it's a threat. It's bigger than all our paychecks and probably our understanding of what they're doing. But it doesn't seem to be causing harm, obviously, to the cows. I don't know what the cows did to them. Or maybe the cows are universally bad on other planets and they come out here and take it out on them every once in a while. But so far, most people have had incidences, besides a few weird illnesses that they develop if they're close to the craft. But most of them come back rather in one piece. Just psychologically, it will affect them, but physically, you're brought back.
Well, that goes back to what you're just saying, back to earlier when I was talking about why. So, and Marquise, this is just me having a conversation. Nobody listening but us. So when we look at, let's say, I show you this picture on my desk.
Yeah, that's so cool, by the way.
I see the reptilians, right? So the whole point would be they abducted 200 people, but then some don't ever come back. We hear stories of missing people, but they brought Marquez back. Why? You know what I'm saying? Why are they using these tables in this certain way? And then once we start discovering that, then we can say, oh, wait, they're sending, and I'm not saying this, but they're sending humans back because they may be altering some genetics. They may be, fixing things that we don't want to fix with our medical superiority that we supposed to have, right? Free, whatever. And so if we can go and I think that's the main thing that the big secret keepers agenda. We can ask for disclosure, all the questions we want till the sun come up, come down. As long as we don't know why they're doing what they're doing behind closed doors, they safe. They're as safe as they can be. But let us find out why, and that will disrupt everything. Okay, yeah, we know they're keeping secrets. We know that. We know how they're keeping it. They ain't telling us nothing. But why are they keeping that from me? And when I find out, they're going down. Going down.
They are answering to Roderick.
Bob is going to help me because me and him is going to do this thing.
Yeah. So I want to point out that David Politis doesn't think they bring them all back.
That was my point. I didn't want to bring up the 411. That was why I was making it, because if you go back and look at all his shows, I like what he's doing. He is saying they ain't coming back, folks.
Yeah. No, they're not bringing them back.
They're not bringing them back. So
I don't think it's the Greys, though. I don't think it's the Greys.
The point is, I think it's multiple entities, and each of them has their own agenda.
Yeah, it's Bigfoot, right, Dave? We know Bigfoot is in on it.
Or it's a single entity that's making us think that it's multiple different ones, including all the other phenomena aside from just the UFO and alien extraterrestrial.
You see how we're going somewhere with this now? Now we all going to the why. That's where we got to go, because that let us.
Well, we're going to talk a lot about aliens and abduction in the next half hour, and we might even go a full hour on that one, because Gary Nolan also made another comment earlier this month that basically said, yes, we have nuts and bolts, but we're forgetting about the experiencers who got us to this point. And I think that's an important topic to talk about, because Tim, Bob, from being on this show enough that we have talked ad nauseum about why isn't anybody defending the experiencer? Why isn't anybody defending yes, it's an anecdotal story. But why isn't anybody defending that? Because without the direction of where to go or where to look or what happened, we have nothing to study. And the experiencers have given science that ability, according to Gary Nolan. And we're going to get into that when we get back here on Spaced Out Radio. We got a fantastic panel with 1 hour to go here on the Mighty SOR. Why the Big Secret YouTube channel. Roderick Martin is here. Make sure you go hit subscribe to him. From our UFO report, Tim Senor, Jason Gilmet from the UAP Studies podcast, Marquise Williams from After Hours on our Spaced Out Radio weekends, and of course, the lovely and talented Science Bob. We return on Spaced Out Radio for the final hour right after this. Stay tuned. We got a lot more show coming at you right next. All right, we are clear. Hey, Bogan, how you doing? Wendy Williams, good to see you. And that was a fun hour, guys.
I'm going to use the restroom, but I want to share when we get back on air a career change for me from Bob Salas, and something him and I had a private conversation, and he was like, this is where I need to steer you, and we'll talk about that.
Sure.
We'll line up right with where you're going.
Then we have to talk about the experiencers and what it is they can do for us.
And that's what we're doing. We're going to go that way, but I'll be back. I'm going to, my lease is up on the drink, and I need to.
I'm going to refill my coffee cup. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to sign.
And I borrowed my coffee long enough. I have to go pay it back.
Yeah, that's what I tell. I'm drinking water, but my lease is up, and so I'll be back. Just got to go. So I'll be right back.
All right, I'll be here.
Okay.
I'll be here.
Well, you got it. You can handle it all by yourself, brother.
I got this, brother. We go.
Yeah, all you have to do. See, this is what I'm gonna sneak in my little thing now. I'm gonna be like, since Dave is gone, he don't know. I'm gonna be like, here we go. Y'all ready? Truth Seekers, I want to welcome you to Spaced Out Radio. I'm Roderick Martin, and I'm one of the 6 hosts tonight. And we're going to talk about all this stuff on Spaced Out Radio tonight, and we're going to hit it hard. We got Marquez, we got Science Bob, we got Tim, we got Jason, and we got Dave. So you could have been anywhere else tonight, but I want to thank you for being right here, right now. With that being said, I want to bid you good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be in the 24 time zones this show on air. I'm located in the Jumbo State. This is where those UFOs come out to play. It's a Texas thing, y'all, and that's how we're going to roll. Everything big comes rolling in Texas, so we're going to be the boldest, baffling, belligerent YouTube channel in the world, creating captivating conversations that'll certainly cause controversy. So join Dave Scott, Marquez, join Science Bob, join Roderick, join Jason and Tim. And let me go for Dave. Get back. Let me get back.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
I'll be back.
That was so good, man. That's so good. That was so good. Wow. I know y'all love that. I love that. Listen, I do have a bladder. I just hold it well, okay? Well, you know, when I'm on the After Hours show and I'm on there for 3 hours, I take breaks. I just do it whenever the transition's going on. But since there's no transition, it's just us here. I feel like that y'all deserve the best of me for the whole time. So I'm going to stay here and stick it out with you. I don't think I'm a drone, but if I were, would I know if I were a drone or not? I don't know. That's the question. A super crazy movie. I mentioned that on the show the other day. I'm not allowed to say anything further than that. I did. I kind of clarified that before, but it's all good stuff, man. It's no problem here. It's good stuff. So moved on for personal growth, my friend. Science Bob, you are, man, you're all over the place. I see you. I've been watching some of your other podcasts. You are a smart cookie. My goodness. It's like you're hiding your power level on us, man. I feel like you're hiding your power level on us. That's what we say anyway. My generation, we say it. Hiding your power level because you are a smart dude.
Yeah, there are things I need to do because I'm not living up to my full potential in this field yet, but I will.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I've heard you speak, and especially on our, when we had a conversation, the level of intelligence in your conversation is clearly at a higher caliber than what you're letting off during most of the shows that you're on. You and I get why you have to talk to people from where they are. Not everybody is
Yeah,
where you are.
Look, I cannot talk relativistic mechanics or quantum field theory or whatever to the people in this audience, or I would give them nothing.
Right. It's
So
it would
so
be
my
nothing.
superpower is taking all that hard stuff and translating it into something that's consumable.
Yeah. I say that I think that comes with experience and knowledge. Like, for example, for myself, I'm still learning, so I don't know how to simplify things. So when I talk about things, people sometimes it sounds complex, but I'm still trying to make sense of it. That's why
Two of my heroes, Richard Feynman, three of my heroes, Richard Feynman, Albert Einstein, and John Archibald Wheeler. They believed, and Freeman Dyson. I knew all of them.
wow.
except for Feynman.
That's
Okay,
awesome.
I knew Archie Wheeler, but Wheeler was Feynman's graduate advisor. Okay, so every one of them extolled the virtue of the following level of understanding. If you do not understand something well enough to explain it simply, you simply do not understand it to begin with.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I feel like I'm trying to make sense of it, which is why I can't simplify, because I don't know what's going on, man. I mean, I'm just learning and talking about it, and I don't know when I'll ever be at that level where I'm like at a mastery level where I can explain it and simplify it for everybody else. I don't know when. I'm not yet though.
So where will you be tomorrow if the aliens just show up? Then where will
trying to dig my basement deeper.
It's done. The jig is up, right?
Okay, guys, we got 30 seconds. I want to say thank you to Deb ×2, Free Your Mind, Bob, Becky, and Louie for the great super chats tonight. Thank you to everybody who so far has hit the thumbs up button or thumbs down, whatever one, we don't mind. And don't forget after the show to leave a comment. If you're new here, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, as we are here 7 days a week for your listening entertainment. Here we go with the final hour of the show coming up right now.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us, will you, at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Oklaphobia. Oklaphobia is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with our great panel tonight of Why the Big Secret YouTube channel host, Roderick Martin, Jason Gilman of UAP Studies Podcast, Science Bob. We got Marquise Williams from the After Hours Show on our YouTube channel, and from the UFO Report, Tim Senor. And getting back to Gary Nolan here, earlier this month, he made a very profound statement that science cannot exclude the experiencers of the UFO and extraterrestrial phenomena. He said basically on Twitter that it's people like this who have given science the direction on where to look and how to really maybe even change the way science works in looking into this. Bob, as a scientist, I want to start with you on this one. Okay, I thought it was a great statement, and I know we're in the minority of the nuts and bolts crowd here, okay, but I thought it was a very great statement, a giant statement by Dr. Gary Nolan from Stanford University to come out and talk about the importance that science cannot continue to push the experiencers out of the way, saying pretty much, get out of our way, let the real people do the job here. You guys keep your anecdotal stories to yourself. We don't need you. We don't want you here, which has been the attitude over the last number of years. Now, Gary comes out and states what he says, which is polar opposite. Bob, take this one and tell me your thoughts.
Okay, so Gary and I agree 1,000%, as you might imagine. The reason I say this is Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm just going to pick on some people. Neil deGrasse Tyson is one of those that rejects it utterly. But that's bad science. He's saying Bob, you have zero evidence to explain to me what you're doing. Therefore, it's worthless. I don't want to consider it. You have to be wrong. It can't be that. So he's utterly rejecting actual data to help fulfill his confirmation bias. Okay, so you don't reject data if you're a good scientist. McWest, he's a little bit more clever. What he takes is an event that we all can witness because there's a video of it from a cockpit or a gun camera, and he focuses in on one piece of it, one little piece, and says, I can explain that piece of it as utterly prosaic. It's utterly prosaic, and I can do it like this. But he's left out the other 90 factors that are part of the actual event. You've got to learn how to argue with these people. The way to argue with them is tell them what they've left out and what they've done wrong. And typically what this takes is an actual experienced scientist, or et cetera, like Jacques Vallée or me or Gary Nolan or someone else who understands that observational science is just taking whatever data you have and you keep gathering it until you have enough, you notice a pattern. That's it. So when you gather enough data that you notice a pattern, then you make a hypothesis. And the hypothesis, if it was borne out, leads to a theory. And if the theory continues to make predictions that actually come true every time you measure the prediction by some experiment, and you keep doing that, then you get a discovery. If at the end of a bunch of random trials, you say, this is not random. I reject random in favor of, at least to the 5 sigma level, it is not random. It's this event. That is how a physics discovery is declared. They don't go out and look and say, I see one particle, therefore it's there. No. CERN runs millions of experiments, and they see these little particle tracks in their instruments, and they look millions of times. And once they get enough rolls of the dice, and the rolls of the dice give them it's 10 to the minus 5, it's 5 sigma event that it's this. Then they say, okay, I've got a 5 sigma event. I've seen it so many times. It's this. It can't be random because it's 5 sigma. Therefore, that is declared a physics discovery. The Higgs boson was not observed. Its effects were observed, and what it becomes was observed. And so it's a 5 sigma event that it was observed and had a mass of a certain energy. And that was how the Higgs boson was discovered. And anybody who doesn't understand that's the way science has to work, you take observational evidence, you get enough of it till you see a pattern, you take the pattern, you turn it into a hypothesis. The hypothesis fails or succeeds. If the hypothesis succeeds, you build a theory, and from the theory, you make predictions, and you keep making predictions until the predictions fail. Then you start over.
Bob for president.
That's right. It's great listening to Bob and the beautiful description of the scientific method. And it's that sort of thing that I wish everybody brought to their information before they released it publicly, so that we didn't have to go through all of the nonsense of deciphering if this
you
is
got
real or
100,
not.
you have 144 or 288 characters, or if you have a blue star, they'll string them all together for you. And that's all because you can't do science on Twitter.
And we heard Dave high-fiving the nuts and bolts crowd. That's kind of a new thing for you, Dave. You're tiptoeing into new waters in that new belief. But I'm really glad to welcome you over to this crowd. But Bob, I'd love to highlight the fact that scientists create points of contact. I love that, because creating your own data points to bring to the table is so important when it comes to this. You really have to seek it out aggressively. So when I heard Fitzpatrick say that he's just waiting for things to come across his desk, I knew he was never going to get it anywhere close to this.
He has no budget to go out and collect the data. He's a repository for anything that anybody wants to bring to him. And given the infrequency with which people in the military are going to bring it to him, leave out all the other experiences in the world, he's excluding 99% of the data. And let me tell you, one of the things that I feel makes me privileged is that I live with an experiencer. And I get to see, with my psionics camera, craft fly over my house every day and do a non-ballistic motion, and I'm happy to show you the video. I get to show you video where flashes happen in the sky, and we look at the video, we pull out one frame, and in one frame, there's a craft. I get to see nuts and bolts. I get to see orbs. I get to see this. I get to see that. I get to see the things that Melinda Leslie sees in the desert of Sedona every damn night in my psionics camera. I mean, I get to see the actual evidence every day that I know somebody ought to be doing science with and gathering it until they see a pattern.
Yeah.
Well, that's the idea behind it, is giving proper testimony from the scientific community, Jason, about experiencers. We are so focused on the craft. We are so focused on the propulsion systems, on the G-forces, on how they're built, how they're made, where they're coming from. And over the past few years, the one thing I would say the Stars Academy was very successful at is separating, even though they were saying these craft are not human, they're not from here, they weren't saying who was flying them. Okay, whether they're drones or whether it was an alien species, they did a great job in separating the two, which I never really agreed with. Okay, because something has to always be flying something. If it's a drone, it needs to be remote controlled from somewhere. And somebody's flying that drone. It's just like at Tonopah Air Force Base in Nevada, those pilots there are flying drones in Afghanistan, in Syria, in the Middle East, or wherever. They're being flown by someone or something. And the fact that Gary Nolan now is trying to push that conversation to the other side, saying, look, experiencers do have some answers, whether it's within their brain that they don't know, whether it's within the marks that are left on their body, potentially, going back to John Mack's days of people being implanted by certain things. I mean, here's where it gets interesting. What's your take on that?
You know what? Science needs to look at it, because realistically, there's more detail in the abductees. Like, even we found through, interviewing a lot of them, is that they possess abilities that they did not have before, or suddenly an interest in something that they've never had before, numbers, or Kevin Day's, like, I think it's like geography or something. Like, he's a brilliant person when it comes down to or geology or whatever, just surveying the land, and like it just comes to him. And some people have artistic abilities, or they all bring something that is not only beneficial to them but to others. So that's very interesting. They all have that in common. It's rather you'll have an abductee that just is a guy that sits at home and watches movies. Usually it involves somebody who's very creative. Bob, And Marquise, I don't know about you guys. You are related to people who've had experiences, and Marquise, experience for yourself. But your mind is more creative, and it seems to be the more creative people that are having these experiences. I don't know about you guys, but there's a lot of people in the world, and sometimes you drive by them and they're like, mouth is open. You're like, man, that person's alive, but they're not there. They're not at the capacity that the rest of us is. They're not the same frequency than some of us.
Gary Nolan would tell you that the most creative people have the caudate putamen enhancement. He said that in New York.
Yeah, and the what do they call it? The basal ganglia or whatever is very active in abductees and creative people. So there are common factors amongst the abductees and threads that we can say, like, have you noticed this pattern? There are patterns. We just need to collect more data. John Mack was, ahead of his time when it comes down to being an academic studying the phenomenon. He collected a lot of data. Unfortunately, he got wooed by a lot of people, and sometimes he shouldn't have believed them. But for what he did for studying this phenomenon, and actually, a Harvard professor to boot, given it that credibility that, look, either this is a new mental illness that millions and millions of people across the world are experiencing the same symptoms, or it's really happening. There's no in between. Do you know what I mean? Like the factors, the repeated, people in China see the grays. They explain the ships the same way as people in America do. People in Sweden have the exact same interactions. This is a global thing. And when you start looking at the threads and all the details that people are saying when they're aboard the craft, like, I got to fly the craft, they talked to me, they were kind, like they showed me, like, Betty Hill was saying, they showed them a star map, a 3D, map of the stars that they came from, and they still spoke to her, they communicated with her. There's no hostility, like you hear some stories that are obviously terrifying, but overall, like, I don't think there's malicious there. I think that we need to understand what they're here for, and these people are it. That's the key. That's the base of ufology. We start there. We can work our way up after that, but we need to figure out, what is it about us that they're here to do? Is it something we'll never understand, or is it something that maybe the hybrids are a liaison between two species? You need to have that to be able to create a bridge to two species alien to each other. You need to have a middleman. That makes sense. If you're trying to bring humanity into whatever is going on out there, you have to elevate them. And the only way to get to them is have somebody that, oh, by the way, your next door neighbor, hybrid. Guy you work with at work, hybrid. Like, if you're surrounded by people that are hybrids, all of a sudden it's not that terrifying. So that's another aspect of ufology we need to look at, is saying, there's a purpose here, and obviously their big reveal is going to happen, but what does that mean for us? And philosophers are starting to jump on board now and talking more about it.
Is it more philosophy, though, or is it more academic? Roderick, your opinion?
Well, like I was going to allude to earlier, I had a conversation with Bob Salas, the Mastron Minuteman. He was on my show, and then we talked on the phone a few times, and I told him that I was kind of felt at some point that I was in a kind of a different space, especially in, I can go into that another time. And I said, well, Bob, what is really happening? And he says, Roderick, I'm going to give you some advice, and this is what you should do. And I've done it ever since. And he said, it is time to trust the witnesses. He said, if we focus on it, he said, so much people focus on what's in the sky. Who is focusing on what's happening with the people on the ground? If you make that your mission, you're going to make a bigger discovery than most. And we're probably seeing that with Gary today, because he has been working on the people who've been having these mental issues, brain damages, and all. So he knows firsthand the capabilities and the trauma and what is happening with the people on the ground. And so I started interviewing people, and I started looking at the experiencers. I was on Clubhouse. I grew that club from 30 people to 30,000. I was their creative first winner. So I was doing a UFO show, and all of a sudden, all these people were coming on stage telling their stories. And I had to develop after listening to Bob, and then him and I talked several times, or Robert Salas, and I was like, okay, how do I get away with when people are telling me these big experiences to give them the comfort that we're focusing on them? And that's when I came up with something that, it's not, I probably make it up, but I believe you believe, right? And I would start talking to these experiencers, and I would just they'll ask me, well, you believe me, right? And I know that's all they're looking for. They're looking for someone to vacillate with, someone they can talk to about their stories. And basically, and I think you and I talked about this day when we talked about going in the woods with you, a long time ago. And I said, if you ask me, Roderick, there's a leprechaun over there behind that dumpster, can you see it? And I'm like, no. And you like, I know it's there. All I'm gonna say is, Dave, I believe you believe it's there, and because I'm with you, I'm you, my boy. Let's go. I don't have to see it. I don't have to have the experience you have. I don't have to know what Marquez went through. But I believe he believed what happened to him, and because I'm supporting him, let's go down this road. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we got to trust the witnesses. We got to begin to go. And if you're in a family with somebody, you got loved ones, you got somebody, you got to believe they believe what is happening. And that's the only way it's going to allow you to go the distance, because you were trying to say, well, I don't see what you see. I don't have what I didn't go through experience. Who cares? But he did. Go with them. Take the journey, and that's what we're gonna have to do. And that's how I do all my shows. That's how I did Project Black now, which is out now. It's growing immensely, all of those things. And it's because I decided a long time ago, trust the witnesses, following Bob's advice. That's my story.
Powerful.
And
Well
Tim,
said.
and Tim, I want to get you in here, Marquisa. Well, I promise you, we will get you in here on this as well. But Tim, for you, I mean, you had a scenario with your own sighting where your entire family saw it, and it is still bothering that entire family. I mean, this is something that has lagged on for a couple of years going on now. I mean, for you, when you hear these scientists talk about, I don't care about the experiencers, but then somebody like Gary Nolan is standing up for those people who, in your case, you're very lucky. You got validation because you were smart enough to actually grab a camera and film it. I mean, the idea behind that so many people are being told that their stories are not worthy of conviction. Their stories are not validating. When we have people who are, bothered and troubled every night with aliens coming through their walls, and people waking up like random guy to aliens at the end of their bed. I mean, there's a lot of things that are not very understandable that many people who don't know each other are having the same experience.
Yeah, it's incredibly validating, I think, for people that are looking for validation. Right now, it's the time, because he is absolutely speaking out on the behalf of witnesses that are having those firsthand experiences. Now, my family and what we went through is a little bit, different, I guess. And for me, I'm still in that skeptical world looking for validation, even for my own experience, which is probably pretty frustrating to hear, to have been this close and still not know what I saw. However, I would like to consider the fact that the investigation continues pretty aggressively, and to some people, that was incredibly validating to see that. For me, it felt a little too soon, too much, too soon, perhaps, because for me, I'm not ready to make that bold statement until perhaps I had something in my pocket that I could prove it with. And I'm that proof guy. I am that nuts and bolts guy. So I wish that there had been something of follow-up with Gary's statement instead of a back off, because him backing off so rapidly really kind of softened it. And so when we come out with that statement, I want us to be ready with the evidence, or at least with something that's going to be acceptable to the public as far as evidence goes, because who really knows what disclosure looks like, right? For each of us, it's going to be different. But I'm somebody that's very much with one foot in both worlds right now, because I'm searching aggressively for the truth. I think as we all are. But for me, I'm just not ready to put my foot in either door completely. And for me, that statement was a little bit bold.
Well, I think Gary Nolan, backs off on many of his statements because he gets so sick, not because he doesn't believe them, but he gets so sick and tired of the critics of the world that, they have no, I mean, everybody's an internet tough guy. Everybody's an internet tough guy. And I think we've all been through that at least at one point or another. Okay. And when you see people attacking you, your credibility, your education, you finally just say enough is enough, and you back off. And you fine. You want me to say something else? I'll say something else, and you back off on the statement. I think that's what we get from Gary Nolan quite a bit because he is profound. I think out of all the scientists, he's the most credible that we could go with, and we got to pay attention when he speaks. We need to pay attention to his first word, not his second word, his first word. Marquise, we're going to continue with the experiencers with you when we return from the break here. Final break of tonight's roundtable discussion. Everything UFO is looking at the month that was right here on Spaced Out Radio. Marquise Williams, Jason Gilmet, Tim Senor, Science Bob, and Roderick Martin. We're all back right after this on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. All right, we're clear. You know what? It is just getting dark here.
Oh, really?
Shoot.
Yeah.
Wait another month.
Yeah, I know.
It's over here. It's
I
been
know.
dark.
I was looking north last half hour, and I looked up in the sky, and I couldn't even see any stars because they're way off in the distance. You could still see the blue sky.
Well, it is almost 2 a.m. here in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And it is dark.
Oh,
Where are you located, Roderick?
Dallas, Texas.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm in Maryland, and it's really dark here. Nice and clear tonight. I'm going to go out with my Psionics camera and see if I can. I went out the other night, and Lala said, listen, y'all, please come. I'd like to get you on the camera. And about 3 minutes later, I held the camera up to the sky, and for 6 minutes, nonstop craft did non-ballistic motion. I'm happy to show you the video.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Living with this person is a dramatic experience.
There you go.
The psionics really does make it easy to see,
The
doesn't it?
Psionics Opsin, which is the one I have, beats the crap out of the Aurora. I have two Auroras I'm getting rid of because I have
the Pro version.
It's Pro version. I mean, look, I'll show it to you.
Yeah, the same one we use.
Oh, it's in the other room. No, it's meant to go on your helmet. It has a battery pack that sits back here at the back of your helmet. I haven't put it on a helmet yet, so I put the battery in my pocket and hold it in my hand. But I've gotten all sorts of craft on that thing, and it's going to turn into a huge body of evidence.
There's a remote marine version as well that you can just set outside.
Yes. That's called the night something or other. And you can put it on your boat. And literally you can go out in the dark and see everything in the harbor.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing, psionics. And you can get refurbished versions pretty inexpensively.
Right, they're under half price if they're refurbed because people are rough on those things.
Yeah. Well, they get in hairy situations.
Yeah, if you don't mind. If you don't mind. Lala's going to bring it in so I can show it to you guys.
Sweet. I've had a few investigators with the drop and run. It just gets dropped.
No. As Dave or Lala or anyone else can tell you, when trouble happens, I shove all them behind me and I go in front. I don't run.
Oh, you can come on my investigations then.
Yeah, that's the reason I'm going to go out to Dave and what's the name to look for a craft or for a Bigfoot, because if one shows up, I'm going out front.
Isn't it funny how Dave is always trying to corral us up to BC?
This is the Psionics Opsin. This is the battery, and this is the camera. And this thing is fabulous.
Well, I'm heading out to the spot tomorrow night.
We'll take it out when
I spend about 4 or 5 hours out there tomorrow night.
You're just going to commune?
Just going to commune, build a fire, put the lawn chairs out.
That's
maybe
it.
roast a
That's
hot
it.
dog,
Go out and look at the stars and experience nature.
see what we get. And,
What about you, Rod? Rod, do you get out into nature and commune? Uh-oh, you're muted.
You're muted. You're muted, Rod.
I think he's doing it on purpose.
No, I'm not.
No.
He's messing with us. He's doing it telepathically.
Look, I wanted to say I'd get out and walk around and doing all that stuff, but not exactly. But you know what? We are going to have a stargazing party thing here in Dallas, and we're trying to find a dark spot, without going down to Ennis, Texas, where the mosquitoes.
You got to go 100 miles away.
Yeah, the mosquitoes are lethal there, though.
Oh,
I mean, and me, they will mistake for one of those livestock, and so
you're beefsteak.
Man, my body is up. And Dave, don't forget, let everybody know to vote for me. I need them to vote for me for the Conscious Awards.
That's right. Everybody go on out. Give the website, Rod.
It is, you have to put www.voteforroderick.com. And then it'll take you over to the Forbidden Knowledge Conscious Expo, the TV host part. You can just vote, hit that button, vote for me. I need to win it. And I am one of the finalists with
Awesome.
Teresa Bullitt and Robert. I forget the other guy's name. Good Lord.
Good. Forget the other guy's name.
Congratulations, Roderick.
Yeah.
Only care about
Is Jimmy Church the master of ceremonies?
Yeah, Jimmy Church is going to be the master of ceremony there. And but like I said, I just did a little web address just to forward people straight to it. So it's Vote for Roderick. You can put HTTP, not the S though. For some reason, job form, just put HTTP www.voteforroderick.com. Choose me, vote for me, please. Oh, look, Deb says she voted for me. I thank you. And all of that. And
excellent.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We got 10 seconds. Thank you to our super chatters, Louie, Becky, Bob, Deb times 2, and Free Your Mind. Appreciate the love. Here we go with the final half hour. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Hey, if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Final time, let's introduce our panel tonight. Marquise Williams from the After Hours Show, Roderick Martin from Why the Big Secret YouTube channel. We got Science Bob. We got Jason Gilmet from the UAP Studies podcast, and little Timmy Senor, our resident Timbit from the UFO Report. We're into experiencers. Marquise, you're an experiencer, and you're very open about the experience you have had with, it's personal. For those of us who have had the experience, we take it personally. We take it, we all get offended when someone tries to say, well, maybe it was this. Maybe you were hallucinating. Maybe somebody dropped a roofie in your drink at the bar and it kicked in hours later. I mean, there are a ton of excuses that people try to drop on you when you're an experiencer, but there's nothing like the feeling of waking up and seeing alien grays in your bedroom, or walking through a forest and seeing a 10 to 12 foot extraterrestrial staring at you from the northern direction, like happened to me. I mean, take us through what your idea is or your thoughts are that, what happened to you, according to the majority of ufology right now, means nothing.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm afraid to talk about this topic anymore. I will, for the show, but the crazy thing about ufology and UFO Twitter and people within the UFO community is that they attack people And I mean like literally attack, viciously attack people that don't agree with the general narrative that is believed in the UFO community. And I've actually been attacked. It's a hurtful. It's actually quite hurtful. You might hear it in my voice. I'm sorry. Hold on one second.
It's a safe place, Marquis. Safe place.
You're safe here,
No,
bro.
It's actually. Oh my gosh. Hold on. Let me gather myself.
See, now let me say this while he's doing that. I've been getting a little slack every now and then, Dave. And I think you was on the show the other night when I was talking about Project Black, right? And Project Black is something I put together. It's called the Black League of Alien Contact Knowledge. Now, it's for everyone, but it's focusing on my community and indigenous communities because I feel, and from my experience, that it's been disproportionately represented, and the stories and just what he's going through. There is a lot of people in my community because there is no safe place for us to talk. And that's why I created that program, and it's working. It's people are coming forward, they're crying. And not only from our religious background, because it's a taboo subject in the African-American community to talk about these aliens and extraterrestrials. So I know exactly what he's dealing with. And I still get slack. Oh, you're trying to create racism. No, I'm just saying there's a lot of stories. There's a lot of stuff that is not there. Back in the 50s and 60s, before MUFON, there was only the local sheriff departments where we could report a UFO. And what African-American, even white person then, when they thought it was cuckoo, would go to the sheriff department and say, I got abducted or I seen it. So those stories are just suppressed, especially in the community. And now I'm trying to dig them out. And just what he's dealing with is just really it's emotional for me too, because I know exactly, because we have not been raised to deal with stuff like this. We got this spiritual veil in our homes, and it's a religious thing, and it's taboo. It ain't just the experience side. It's a whole mental side of it. And that is one of the reasons I created that. And kudos to you, man. And I'm telling you, you are in a safe place. But when you do talk about it, it's going to allow other people who is dealing with the same thing, who's going to say, I'm not crazy. I thought I was crazy. So you're going to be a pioneer.
And you're going to find they're going to wrap their arm around you.
I
want to back up what Roderick said. So I grew up in the South, and the sheriff of the county I grew up in was the Grand Wizard of the KKK. How many black people do you think you're going to go to him?
There you go.
Not one.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons. And I was trying to do some research for a book, and I was like, wait a minute, I can't find the stories. And like I said, we already know how to was treating non-color people with UFO, imagine where everybody else was in indigenous. And so when I started it, and it's growing phenomenally. While we here, I got plenty of people emailing. But like I said, it's not just for us, it's for the community, that we can get stories that are untold places and add to the collective. But we have to focus in some areas and create the place where someone of indigenous, or, because you can have a black friend, go try to talk to them about UFOs. And then I get it. Somebody said, well, you got the Betty and Barney Hill story. I'm like, okay, that's 1 out of what, 10 million?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But
let me please ask a question here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because your community is very religious in a lot of sense, way more religious than the Caucasian people or whatever. I've never really
oppression to do that for you. Oppression will make you turn that way. But yes, go ahead.
Okay, so my question is, where does religion play into the fact that anything that happens from space is evil, it's demonic, it's fallen angels? Where would that be into play for not admitting that there's a lot of black people who don't want to come out about their experiences?
Well, you take the circus elephant, the baby. How did they train him to not go berserk? Well, when he was a baby, they tied him up with a rope. He pulled on it because he was curious. But when he began to grow that, hey, I cannot break this chain, now he's a full-grown African or whatever Indian elephant. but he pulls just a little tug, he still feels it, and he's okay until he goes bananas, right? We see the stories of the elephant going crazy, right? So in our community, religion has always been a umbrella. For example, I'm gonna just throw this out here. We all heard of, and I'm still investigating it, but I'm just about to conclude it. We all heard of the song "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, Come to Take Me Home," right? That came from old slave songs, right?
Yep.
If you go back and think about in history, before we had the term UFO, even go back in ancient civilization, what did they call a UFO? A chariot, right? Why would a slave race or people at this time be saying, "Swing low, sweet chariot, come take me home"? Because obviously they saw something up there that was flying around. Wasn't helicopters and planes back then. Come down here and get us out of this mess. I looked over to Jordan. What did I see? These angels coming from me. We hear about the water. So these stories have been transcended in my history, but there's been no definition. So when you go back,
well, they were orally passed down.
They was orally passed down. The antidotes of the fire, the storyteller, same thing. But the natives done a great job of passing their stories down, and so I love that, because I love looking into Native American stories, and that's how we got our skinwalker stuff, right? But if you go back in our community and you ask that question, it's because, and I'll give you a prime example. This past Thanksgiving, I was at my mother's house, and I had a book that had an alien on it. Now, everybody's hungry. My mother is hungry. I took the book and I placed it in front of the microwave because I'm at the table. She walks in, she's staring like she's frozen in time. And I'm like, "What's going on?" And she says, "Move the book." And I'm like, "My mom's right here." So I'm like, "Hand it to me." And she says, "Move the book." She couldn't even touch it because it had a picture of an alien, right? And she just didn't want to go there because she's always taught us so much into the Bible, so much. And this is why today, especially in our community, and you heard me say it earlier, where some of these younger people are what I call religiously, emotionally bankrupt, because the only stories we have is you're going to go to heaven, you got to do this. So it didn't work for my mom. And I'm not saying I'm a Christian, though, if anybody want to know. It didn't work for me, and then I got to teach my kids the same thing. But yet now we're in the world of Aquarius and all this, and they're feeling consciousness and the energy and ascension. They're not feeling the same thing we feeling, and we can't answer that question. And so, it's in our community. It is a problem. It is a huge problem. I feel that if the extraterrestrial showed up tomorrow and said we are here, we will have issues. And although in the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 26 says,
Ezekiel,
let's make man in our image and the likeness of ourselves. And we go to school, and if you write the word R is not plural on the spelling test, you fail. But in the Bible, R, it doesn't mean multiple people saying, let's make them men in our image in the likeness of ourselves, right? It's a whole different story. And these are things that we deal with. I get passionate about it. But Marquise, I'm with you, brother.
Marquise, let's no, that's all right. We're allowed. You're allowed. Do you feel up to talking about it?
Yeah, so I really do apologize for that. That was unprofessional. But
don't even do it. You good.
Oh, don't go there. Don't worry about it.
It's emotional.
And if you try to be professional, you're gonna be like the big secret keepers. You're gonna start keeping
You
secrets.
don't want me to get crying.
No, the thing is I think that everyone knows that I differ from again the general ufology belief, and I try to be measured and expand my perception about the phenomena. But the problem is that I've faced more opposition and vitriol from the UFO community than even if I weren't religious. Let's say that I were to go to church as an atheist, I would be less attacked by Christians than I am by people in the UFO community for having a differing opinion. And it's so strange. I did not know it was this bad. So, for example, you Canadians are such nice people, and I say that not in jest. Like, Americans were just not like you. We're not as, and there's good and bad everywhere. But I mean, generally speaking, the culture in Canada is just so much of a generally kinder community of people than Americans. And so I feel like there's a projection of kindness to other beings as well. They're nice. They're here to help us. They're loving. And that's not everybody's experience. And I feel like I have been attacked by people for suggesting that there is an alternative as well, not that there is solely a negative aspect to the phenomena, but that there is also a negative aspect to the phenomena. And so, and I mean attacked. I've had people that I put my heart into that have crushed me because I differ. So, it's oh shit.
That's okay.
Hey man, it's all right. I was in a house 3 years ago. My wife, I'm divorced now, and I couldn't even talk about it in my house. And I literally prayed one day and said, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's hurting my wife, and I'm not going to say nothing about aliens. Imagine, we were separated and divorced 3 months later because our issues already had issues.
Right.
But imagine had I took that approach, I wouldn't be here with you today. I wouldn't have affected the lives that I'm affecting, doing the things that I'm doing. So your experience is not just your experience. It is something bigger. It is bigger. And when you decide how big it can be, then it's going to help other people. So just take your time because it ain't going away. But at the end of the day, we're going to be here for you.
And it hurts. I mean, I've been called a liar.
Consider also the phenomenon probably doesn't want to make this easy for you.
Nope.
No.
I know in my family's experience, it made it really hard to talk about, just to communicate it. So please don't feel bad, dude. I can barely get through my family's experience, and it wasn't even that close.
Well, I mean, it's again, I feel it just hurts to know that the community that I love doesn't all love me back. And I know that everybody in the chat, I know you guys are but not everybody in the chat also. There's a few. Again, so like I said, when it comes to the experiencer phenomena, I think that the answers are there too. I just think that I think we need to be cognizant of the fact that there is no 100% of anything anywhere in life. There is good and bad within everything and everyone. And so I feel like it's important for us to just be conscious of the potential dangers also of the phenomena to certain people. Even there is even a dichotomous situation with, like I said, with Lee Strieber. And I wanted to mention before I lost my composure here, that Leslie Kane mentioned the fact that there is a connection between the experiencer phenomena and the afterlife. That there is something about the experiencer phenomena that is connected to the hereafter. And I think her research and her work on that aspect of the phenomena, I believe there is a really big truth to be told about that. And my question is, is there a spiritual aspect to the phenomena what we would call spiritual? I don't think that, I use that term frivolously at this moment, but the idea that there's something else, consciousness, as people say now, is involved with the thing that when we die, what persists afterwards. I think the phenomena is interested in that. And I think that there is a connection between the hereafter and the phenomena. I don't know what that means. I just think that's something to be aware of.
You should have conversations with Lala. She'll just tell you.
Yeah.
When people come to her and they want some kind of reading, she finds out spirits that they have that are deceased and entities that have contacted her, and it's all about consciousness, every bit of it.
Yeah,
100%.
And the other thing I would like to mention about it is, it's not that the phenomena is interested; it is the phenomena.
Yeah, that's right. It is it, and consciousness is fundamental. It is the bedrock of the universe, and everything is built up from consciousness. Everything. Yeah. This is Donald Hoffman's theory for how the universe works. And he's got a mathematical theory for it.
All I would say to you is this little message.
Yeah. Welcome home.
Welcome home. Exactly. You're home. You're here.
Yeah.
And just like George Orwell said, we know how and what, once you get the answers to why you had your experience, which we may never can answer it. Right. But it's up to you to explore, to get closer and closer, and that'll get you more comfortable with your experience.
The one thing you can't do is shut it off and deny it.
Oh my God!
Because it's not going to let you. It's just flat not going to let you. So you need to figure out a way to live with it that allows you and your family to thrive.
to your point, well, Bob, I talked to you and Lala about looking into I've never wanted to until recently, but what the whole purpose of my breakdown was that there was a couple of people, and I say like literally like two people who I when I first came out and talked to people in the public about my experiences, I was finally ready to do that thing. Like I'm ready to just do this. And I just did it and I kept doing it. It's whenever I do that and I feel like I'm home and someone that has made me feel like home turns on me. And that's what hurts, man.
You know what
That
really
hurts.
is happening, and Tim, make it. I don't know if y'all really understand where you are with this. There's more people that that are following the phenomena of ufology consciousness than more people who have had experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes you have to be a little cautious with I forget what it's called, a fantasy, whatever, prone or whatever, where somebody, because there are some people who want to have your experience.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know.
They want to have it. They are looking every day in the sky, looking for that 1 second, that one moment to say that they had an experience. And then there are some who make them up, which makes it worse because they know, they're trying to figure out, can they verify my experience? But we know there's some things that true experiences deal with, just like emotion, just like you can't fake that stuff, right? You just can't make it up. So one of the things that, like I said, once I started going into I believe, you believe, and going down that road, it gave me an opportunity. Although I saw a UFO when I was 12, now that's a totally different experience than abductions and contact and all of those things, and people having sleep paralysis and the afterlife and
waking up with bruises and marks on their body.
On them. And I still deny a few marks. And I was at the hospital recently with my daughter. And the nurse came in and said, "Oh yeah, you're O negative." And I'm like telling her, and I'm looking, and then my ex-wife, who her mother is there, I did father some kids, so I did breed twice. And so y'all get that later. And though the whole point was I sat there, and the mother said, "Yeah, you remember I had to have shots when they was young." And I didn't think about RH negative, right? And then come to find, I said, "You RH negative?" Yeah. And so we start doing those stories. We look at the bloodlines and all this kind of weird conspiracy or stuff, right? Yeah. But I was like, man, I've been this close to this all this time, right? Even closer. And it makes you want to go check yourself, check whatever you want, however the things that we do. But back to you, the experience is somewhat methodical, it's powerful, and you may be somebody may be trying to contact you, right? You may have some message that needs to be deciphered out of the emotions that you're having. And one thing about the extraterrestrial world, what we all realize, their time is different than ours. They're infinitely thousands of years, where we were built for 60 and 70 and 80. So they got all day to get you to figure this out.
We don't.
All right. And on that note, guys, we got to wrap up the roundtable for this month. I want to say a big thank you to UFO Report, Tim Senor, Why the Big Secrets, Roderick Martin, Science Bob, Jason Gilmet from UAP Studies Podcast, and from After Hours, Marquise, the man, the myth, the legend, Williams. What a great show tonight. It's been a lot of fun getting back into the UFO world. We'll see where it goes for next month. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking us in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. All right, Marquise. Time to fill us in. Are you ready?
Sorry about that, man.
Yeah. Stop apologizing, dude. Happened to all of us.
Oh, yeah.
Happened to all of us.
Dude, I got 4 brothers and 5 friends that think I'm crazy.
That's all.
Yeah,
it's okay. It's okay if my family thinks I'm crazy. That's not it. It's again, it's whenever you're in the community and you develop friendships and you trust people and you end up loving them, and then they literally crush you. And that's
hey, dude,
this experience is still fresh.
I got what you got to put it behind you though, man. You know, you got to, and let me tell you this.
fresh.
I have one troll of this show. I'm not going to mention his name. Okay. Bob knows the guy's just an asshole. Okay.
So he put me on the show.
And one time I mentioned that my son had been taken. And so every time he gives me a shot, it's about, this nut bar even tries to influence his kid by saying his kid has been taken. How's the kid now going to grow up, with that? No, it's not Mick West. It's somebody who means nothing to the UFO community. But you're going to get that. And you have to fight through that because your truth is your truth. You never have to apologize for your truth. And I've been for 8.5 years, man, I have been attacked. I have been told I'm a liar, that I only tell all these stories that happen to me because I want clicks. I want ratings. Screw them. I don't even pay attention to it anymore because it's not worth it, but I'm built in, and sometimes it does hurt. Sometimes it totally hurts.
I've seen Dave so depressed and down he wants to quit. And I guarantee you this. Let me tell you what. Dave doesn't do this shit because he gets $1,000 a month from YouTube. That ain't worth it.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. He does it because he can't not do it.
That's why I'm here. That's exactly why. Again, I have, now that I have this opportunity, I feel like I have no choice. Like I need to do this every week. This is a big deal to me. And so, but again, for me, and I don't want to apologize anymore, but for me, it's like, when I'm a very sensitive, especially for a man, I'm hypersensitive for a dude. My lady tells me this, my kids know this. I am the most sensitive person that my whole family knows. But I'm also a big lover. Like I love people. And so, and I don't even know why. I'm like a dog when you see my tail's always wagging when I'm around people because I just love to love people. But I'm also cautious, and so when I put my heart into people, and they tell me, oh, you're so great, I love you, and you're a wonderful person, and then all of a sudden something changes, and then those words change from that soothing, sweet, nectar to something much more bitter and abrupt.
Well, let's take it to the next level though. If an intruder came into your house tonight, then you can also be fearless, correct?
Right. Yeah, of course.
So say that too. Put that in the mix when you talk about all these other things. You are fearless, and that's what it's going to take.
Yeah. And here you are doing this stuff. You're doing the stuff that Dave and I and everybody here does, Roderick. And look what Roderick's built out of what he's. But look, every one of us goes through this shit. And we have to live with it, and we go through it. And in your case and my case, we have huge families that depend on us.
Yeah,
we can't crumble.
No, we can. I can't.
Marquise, I want to just defend Bob here for a second. Bob's got a resume 14 freaking miles long And that's just his education. Never mind his professional career. And there are idiots out there who question whether or not he was one of the top scientists at Virginia Tech, whether he started Sky 360 or Hawkeye 360, pardon me, whether he has his name on satellites. This is all Googleable shit. Because when I was learning,
I don't need to brag about it because people just go Google it.
Yeah. So when I was learning about science, Bob, I went to Google. Who's this Bob McGuire guy? Okay. And then I found like 78 fucking pages of it, or I'm exaggerating there. But I mean, the point that I'm getting at is, and it's hard, but for you being new to the community, people are going to throw their punches. Recently I had punches thrown at me all because I had a certain guest on. Okay. I had punches thrown at me. For what? So now I'm all of a sudden buying followers again, and I am moving on, telling lies about my own stories again. Right. Whereas the day previous to that interview, I was a great guy.
Yeah. So let me tell you, the thing about liars is, especially if they do it all the time, they can't keep their stories straight.
That's it. Yeah.
They just can't do it. And let me tell you what I do know. Dave's stories have never changed once in the years I have known him. They're always the same. And so it's just BS that RG or anybody else throws rocks at him.
Yeah. And I Chad, I just want to say I've been reading the chat. I appreciate the support. And again, for you guys, I genuinely, especially because I respect you guys all. You're definitely more seasoned in this field than I am. And so my excitement is everything is still new to me, including the vitriol. I'm used to it, but I'm not.
When was your first experience?
When I was a teenager. I was like, I think I don't know.
I didn't remember a single thing that happened to me before 2019. And in 2019, I had my first experience. And here I am. Everybody knows me. I didn't choose this. It chose me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Lost me my security clearance. I can't even do the work I like anymore.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's
there's a quote in the Lord of the Rings. It was in the books and they put it in the movies, and I absolutely love that. And and this is weird, but I'm going to bring it back around. Hopefully I did a good job. But Frodo sort of is upset that the ring and the responsibility of destroying the ring came to him. And he's complaining to Gandalf. He's saying, I wish that the ring would never have come to me. I wish none of this would happen. And Gandalf says, so do all who live to see such times. All you have to do is decide what to do with the time that is given to you. And that always struck with me because it's like, that's true. I'm only here for a little bit. Right. What am I contributing? What am I doing to help the future generations to know more about reality, or just contributing somehow? I never thought that I'd be this deep in the subject or in the community of ufology. But now that I'm here, I'm grateful, and be mindful too, Marquise, to enjoy this experience.
Oh, I do.
Right?
Sure.
Because it's not just experiences that you've had with these entities, but you're asking questions. I know you're going to get people that are going to attack you. Look, idiots are everywhere. The bulk of the population, at least 80%, are freaking morons. Right? Let's just admit it. It's only 20% that kind of burn a little bit brighter than others. You're going to get people that are going to do they're going to do you dirty. I'd rather find out early what somebody's opinion of me is, or, if they're going to attack me early on before I invest so much of myself into a relationship with the person that's just going to turn around and bite me if they don't agree with something. Right.
Yeah. For some, I feel like there's something just, I don't have necessarily a choice. It's more like a I don't know, a stimulus where when I'm involved with other people, when I engage with other people, I just naturally have that response to be a very heartfelt person. I just do. Right. And so it's one of the things that people say that is unique about me, but it's also, I think, my greatest weakness, because I'm very vulnerable to pain, to be totally honest. And I'm at this age, I get it. You just deal with it. You keep going. I'm not a stop. I can't. I don't give up. I keep going. I've never been the kind of person to just give up. But I still have moments where, and this is, it's rare for me to break down ever. So I really do apologize. But at the same time, it's so fresh. This experience now is so fresh to me. And it's different because, again, I've never come out with my experience in the public until I started the show. And so to have this new experience, it's like starting all over again. You know, it's like dating someone for the first time and they break your heart. You're like, oh my, I can't believe this happened. Like, what is this? I never thought it would happen in this community, but I was naive and did not know. It's just like anything else. It's just like everywhere else.
I got a question for you. When you say in this community, are you talking ufology or are we drilling
ufology? Ufology. It's like, and it's a much closer to home. I'll be honest with you. It's much closer to home when it comes to what specifically I'm talking about. I just can't mention names. It's not worth it. But again, I'm old enough to know that it's part of life. Pain is part of life. It's just suffering is the nature of living. It's a natural consequence of being alive. It's still jarring sometimes.
But just like Jason was using the Lord of the Rings story, through pain was forged friendship, like you're gonna have here, the Fellowship of the Ring. You know, we're gonna go on the journey. So there's a lot of things that you're going to prevail. And I take myself being a big guy, you know, big for my age. And and 3 years ago, this is a true story. Like I said, when I was married in the house, and today my ex-wife and I are friends, and I realized it wasn't nothing against me. And you're going to realize once you get to that point, those people, not all of them, but majority of them, it has nothing to do with you. They can't comprehend what you have gone through. And now as they can't comprehend it, then they can choose fear. They can choose any emotion that they want to deal with your experience, right? Without going through your experience. Okay. So, like I said, when 3 years ago, I used to binge watch Ancient Aliens. I used to sit there and watch it.
Yeah.
And then the she-wolf, that's what I call her, the ex-wife. She would come in, and the she-wolf would come in and be just all over me. You know, like, turn that TV off. You know, don't let my kids. Now they're her kids until I got to pay the bills. don't let my kids watch that. And you're like, okay, no problem. And the she-wolf had a problem. And then, you know, if you fall asleep, your TV will freeze and shows, you know, will stop and say, are you still there? It's like an alien talking to you. Are you still there? And if you wake up in the middle of the night and you see that, you thinking you being contacted. Like, what? Yeah.
Oh, no.
All right. So where I'm going with this is, so for 3 years, I'm 3 years ago, I'm binge watching this stuff. And then, like I said, I decided to get out because it was affecting my household. And as the man of the house, I had to make a decision. I can't watch this stuff. This is my wife. And then, like I said, something, although we already had issues, something moved our issues up a little further. 3 months later, I was divorced or going through a divorce. And then I posted one video on YouTube. I get this phone call from somebody, say, hey, we like something you said. We want to talk to you about being in this TV show. And I'm like, no. Now, mind you not, they're talking about UFOs. So I'm going like, this has to be a hoax, right? And so all of a sudden, what I thought like you were, not understanding the purpose of what was happening in your life, you then have to turn around and say, wait a minute, it is a purpose for what you're going through. And so all of a sudden, the Discovery Channel, so I'm end up hosting a show. Now I'm still 400 plus pounds, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna lose the 100 pounds before I get there because I don't want to be seen fat on TV. Well, all the frustration of telling my story or what I'm going to be doing on the TV, I gained 20 more pounds the day I stepped on that plane. But where I'm going with this is, since then, I've been in Gaia. I'm on 10 different TV shows hosting Gaia. 2 shows there with George Norrie, Regina Meredith, the Fox Tubi. I'm in a show there. Forbidden Knowledge. I'm in one of his 8-episode shows. I'm in documentaries. But here's the deal. It wasn't until I got the phone call from Ancient Aliens, and they featured me about a month or two ago, that I knew what it all was about. Because at this point, that was the turmoil in my life, watching Ancient Aliens, and now I'm on a show, and then I'm out here, and I'm concerned about being overweight, because if you go read my comments, that is where they attack me the most. Look at that fat guy. Look at him. So they try to reach you wherever they can, is where I'm going. And you got to understand, you have an experience that they cannot comprehend. And through that comes attack. Through that is going to come emotional barrier. And then it's going to play havoc on you, though, because you're going to ask yourself that question I told you to go through in the beginning. Why me? Why?
I always ask that question.
I know you do. I know you do, because it's the foundation of it all. I've interviewed too many people. That's the deal. And then I start asking, why am I on TV with this stuff? Why am my big self is up here and all this? And when I finally got the answer, and when I started doing Project Black, when I started seeing people like you, full grown men that are still dealing with this motion, who we can tell our family and friends what a body is, a barrier, everything but our extraterrestrial experience.
Right.
Somehow that experience is like coveted in, because it's just, we can't make it up. We can't get it. That's when I knew my purpose and where I was in this thing, which I still don't know the bigger picture. Tim has his purpose. Science, Bob has his. Jason have his. Dave is doing his part. But there was a time of all of our parts that we were considered crazy, or why we in this phenomenon. Now validation is here, and who's crazy. So here's what you do. Every time you get these people and they trying to be all this and that, and they want to be at the dinner table at the 4th of July, just ask them, you pay your taxes? And then they're going to be like, yeah, I pay my taxes. I'm a tax citizen. Well, great. I'm glad you helping out with the game here. What do you mean? Every day you go to work. When you go to work tomorrow morning and you get your check, thank you for putting money into the UFO program for us. And watch how the expression change. And they become believers, because everybody want to know what happens to their money. Just like we want to know what they do with the money, right?
And keep to your truth, Marquise.
Keep to your truth. Don't change the story.
I'm
your
never gonna
story and your truth. Anytime you're feeling heat or anything, just get back to that experience and enjoy it again, and re-perceive it and get back into it. And then anything that people say about it is going to just rain off of you. And even when you're trying to tell it, what I've tried to do is forget that I'm telling it and just try and relive it, and let that experience just flow through you. And believe me, it's hard to do, but remember, that's why you're here, and your experience needs to be shared. Let the naysayers what they need to internalize your truth, because it's not going to be easy for them, the same way it's not easy for you, right? And so it's not their fault. It's actually not their fault that they feel that way. It's a natural instinct to react that way, the same way I'm reacting this way to my own experience that I perceived, and you are. So don't hate them for reacting that way. Compassionately continue telling your story, and just let it rain off of you, man. It's your truth.
You hear what you said, Rain? Cry like a fool. Cry like a fool. If you got to cry every night, because eventually you're going to stop crying.
Yeah.
But don't be afraid to cry like a fool. Just do it as much as, like I just tied in the word rain and what he's talking about. Just let it out, because we tend to implode as men because we can't talk to nobody. And that is the worst feeling that you don't want when it comes down. So, it is 3:00 here, or almost where I'm at. Yeah. But you got my number now, right?
I text you. I sent you a text.
If you wake up tonight at 4 a.m. and you got an issue, call me. I'm here. I'm gonna roll out of bed if I'm not asleep already, and I'm gonna listen to you. I may not see it here and solve the problem, but I'm gonna listen, and we're gonna talk about it, and we're gonna laugh about something else. You can call me on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 24/7, 12, 365 plus OT. You can do that. Go. Because I'm all in.
I don't sleep at night.
Then you can call me then. You wake up and call me. My phone, I'll answer, because I'm in this thing and I know what it's going to take.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate I apologize for making this a therapy session to me. I didn't mean to do that.
We don't want no more apologies. We with you.
Yeah,
So
okay, we got it. Well, let me tell you this though. My experience is I feel like my experience wasn't as significant as some other people. Like I said, I seen the craft the one time, which was again bizarre, and then I seen the beings themselves the second time, which was the worst one for me. And so telling the experience is fine. I'm afraid to re-engage. And so I talked to Bob, and Lala last week, where I mentioned I wanted to see if she could look into it in a way that I didn't have to viscerally re-experience the experience. I don't want to, because I'm afraid that if I do, they'll come back again. And so, I don't.
Yeah. You don't have to relive it with her. That's not how it works with her. She's just going to talk to you about it. You'll be wide awake. She's not going to force you to relive it. She's going to talk with you about it.
Yeah, that's good.
And so she'll take a picture of you without your glasses, clearly showing your eyes.
Yeah.
Clearly showing your eyes. And in a few minutes, you will know that you are talking to somebody with great ability. I promise you, it won't take but a few minutes.
I look forward to it.
She will tell you about what came for you.
Yeah, I can't do regression though, and that's the only.
No, this is not regression. It has nothing to do with that. Yeah. She's not a hypnotist. Yeah, she reads you and goes back in time and sees what happens to you and tells you about it.
Is there a reason you won't do? You say you can't.
I don't want to do that again. The time that I saw them, man, there's just, like, I feel like, whenever it's real hot outside, you walk outside and you can like feel the atmosphere heavy on you. There was like a distortion of like the I don't know, like I was in a bubble where everything around me it felt I was there, but it felt different. Like there was some kind of a shift. I don't know. And there was an overwhelming feeling of terror, not fear. I mention this all the time, but like if you put me in the middle of the ocean with a bunch of hungry sharks, I wouldn't be as afraid as I was when I saw them. I wouldn't be. Why would I want to relive that again? And so, and then when they were in my, like the one being, whenever I looked at the clock to make sure that I remember what time it was, and I look back at them hovering, like standing over me, it was in my face. That's it. I can't even tell you how that felt. I can't express the level of terror that I felt. I do not want that because I'm afraid that they'll come again. And so, and I know, because I understand something. I understand that there is an opening, like a door open, that you can open the door. You can. I don't know if everybody can, but I know that I can. And I've been keeping that door shut because I do not want to see them again. I don't want to face them. And I stay up at night because if they do come, I want to be awake this time. I mean like standing up, I want to like face them. So I purposefully stay awake.
Have you done reading about these kinds of experiences?
No.
Okay, so you have set yourself a fucking impossible task. They're not going to ask you whether they can come back or not. They're going to take a wand, they're going to touch it on the side of your neck, and you're not going to have any choice about what you do. You have got to face this.
Yep.
There is no choice in this for you, Marquise. These are not beings that are taking your opinion about what should happen.
No.
And I know I'm being harsh. I know I'm sounding harsh, but I want you to hear me. You've got to face it. Because let me explain to you. I'm going to say something that sounds really trite, but I'm going to tell you, I've been shot at a lot of times. I've had bombs go off all around me. And I'm going to tell you something that's a man that's lived through those experiences. A brave man dies once. Those who live in fear die 1,000 times. You have got to face this fear and work through it.
I don't want to do it by myself, though.
I didn't say you had to do it by yourself. You should not do it by yourself. I'm not saying that, but it is because it will consume you for the rest of your life if you don't deal with it.
Yeah, I don't sleep.
Ask Whitley Strieber.
Yeah, the issue with this phenomenon, especially an experiencer like yourself, is you're allowing fear to occupy your mind, and it's not paying rent.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
You're letting it live there rent free.
Yeah, and the thing is, like Bob just mentioned very beautifully, is you have no control. If this is really happening, you have no control of what night it's going to be, when it's going to happen. But you shouldn't live your life in complete fear because of that experience. And I know it's terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I get you 100%. But I want you to think about it a different way. You are a conscious entity. You're just occupying that body. That's just a car that you're operating, right?
Yeah.
But you're experiencing things in this dimension, in this reality, and you've experienced something that most of us have not experienced. You got to see the stagehands. You know, we're all part of the play, but you got to see the guys running the show in the back, and even they brought you in the back, right?
They gave me no answer, and this is what frustrates me about. They do this thing to me. I'm 35 years old, right? When I was a teenager, this first started happening. The apocalyptic dreams that came afterwards, the weird like insights into people. For a time, I had like these insights into people. I could tell, and it's gonna sound crazy. I don't like talking about this, but I could tell things about people for a long time that they never spoke. They never told me. I would dream about them, and then the dream would tell me something about a person that I wanted to know something about. No matter who it was, all the time. But there's no explanation of, and I can't. What am I supposed to do with that information? You can't tell people, oh, by the way, I had a dream about you, and this is what it told me. Because if you do that, they're going to deny it, which is what happened when I first talked about it, and then it would turn out to be true, and you would make people angry by knowing things about them that they don't even want to admit. And so that was an issue that I had for a long time. And then I pushed it away, suppress, until it went away. All these things that I've had, these experiences that I've had because of those experiences, they've amounted to nothing but the problem, the issue, the fear, the late nights,
Can you share my screen, Dave?
Well, one of the things, Marquise, is the question real quickly, and then let me let Bob throw that up. Is even among us, you said y'all probably wouldn't believe me. That is something that we have to evolve, because you're going to have to trust somewhere yourself.
Yep.
You know, we can't say it no more that we here with you. We're in a collective. We all are sharing. We all are going through the same thing. You're going to have to identify your foes and the people on your team, right?
Yeah.
And then you can to be comfortable at some point and begin to feel safe in the environment that you're in and among the people that you are. You're not supposed to walk up to some stranger and say, by the way, step over to the left because there's going to be a bucket on your head in a few minutes. Right?
Not like that, but yeah.
You ain't supposed to do that one. You know.
Okay, so the person I'm asking you to talk to Lala and or me or both of us, Dave and others who have all been through, Roderick, everybody else who's been through this. Tim's not yet ready to say what he's been through, but that's okay. That's nothing wrong with that. But this thing right here stood 6 friggin' feet from our face, and Lala took this picture with my camera, and then it came back and put a puncture mark on her arm, kept me asleep, and then it came back and told her our orders. It told us what we're going to do for the rest of our lives. Mm-hmm. What do you do with this? I mean, you either face it, you figure out how to live with it, or it will consume you until nothing's left. Yep. I'm just going to tell you what the facts are.
I'm dealing in some way. I have a coping mechanism, so to speak. I mean, again, these are, I don't know. I have no idea why I'm talking about this stuff right now, but I will say
you do.
Yeah, you needed to.
You do, yeah.
Or you wouldn't be doing it.
And you need to talk more about it.
And it's okay with us.
You're not upsetting us at all. We because several of us know exactly what you're going through.
It's strange, and again, everything that you're saying, everybody's saying is, I understand that. I know this. I know
Yep.
this. I know that, you know, the one time I mentioned, there was a meditation that I came out of about a month or two ago, where I asked the phenomena to give me an answer, and it did, and I didn't like it. And it wasn't a scary it just scared me. I just didn't, because I'm not in control of how it expresses itself to me. And
That's
so,
absolutely true.
well, the weird thing is, it gave me something that was essentially predictive, and I mean, like, on a big scale.
Yeah.
And I didn't, I still don't know what to do with what happened in that moment, because what happens when I keep asking and they show up in my bedroom, and then and then I don't know what happened to me then. I don't have
Okay, so
answers,
I'm
dude.
going to tell you what my experience has been, what Law's experience has been, and what I think most other people's experience has been, if they are truthful. You ask them a question, and they don't necessarily answer the question you wanted them to ask. They answer the question you needed to have them answer. Almost always.
Not in the
If
way
you,
that's it's jarring, though. The way they
I
give you
didn't
the
say it
answers,
wasn't
it's jarring.
jarring. Oh, no, no, no. What we were shown is jarring, and it
Yeah.
won't be pleasant. But I have to deal with it because I know it's coming.
So is that a good
But,
thing or a bad?
you
You
know,
understand? Like, you understand?
speaking on how it works, I mean, Bud, I had a dream one night. Okay, and that dream, Bob and I were being chased by Grays.
Mm.
And when I called up Bob the next morning, my body felt like I hadn't slept a wink all night. Every joint of my body was killing me. My neck, my arms, my elbows, my knees, my ankles, my hips, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I called up Bob the next morning and I said, "How'd you sleep?" He goes, "Well, I was tossing and turning all night."
Wow.
I told him what happened to me, and I said, "Bob, you were there." Bob goes back I get a phone call about 8 hours later, because Bob was bothered by the conversation. He checks his Fitbit that had him up for an hour and a half that night, wide awake.
And my ex-wife had heard something downstairs and had left the room, went downstairs to check to see what she could see because she couldn't wake me up, and she doesn't know how long she was downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not. They have an agenda, and you're not going to control how it all goes.
I'd interviewed a gentleman quite a while ago, and he was talking about how he had investigated people in the churches that were going through these experiences as well, how they perceived these experiences to be. You know, some of them thought it was demons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This one gentleman lived in a trailer home. And one night he decided he was going to put a tripwire across the hallway. So if the buggers came in the middle of the night, he would be able to trip them. And he succeeded. So supposedly one night he hears them coming down the hall. So he knows they're coming. And he hears them one of them fall flat on their face. They
way.
weren't expecting the tripwire.
No way.
And supposedly we're just looking at the trip, and just those level of details that people have put into what they're experiencing this so much that they're like, I'm going to try to get back at them, right?
Listen,
like I'm going
this
to try
is
to do something.
This is the thing about, and I'm gonna, again, I want an insight. I want insight. When I saw them, they were hovering. They weren't walking at all.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
freaking
not
hovering.
unusual. That's
Yeah.
not unusual.
And another thing is my experience with I am very easy. I can change my state of mind easily. I used to meditate using the holosync technology with the binaural beats, the hemisync
Yeah.
holosync technology.
I use binaural beats myself to go into
so
the delta wave.
I can transition from beta, alpha, theta,
Yep.
and delta willfully. But the thing is, I also transition between those brainwave states easily, even without trying. I can't drive for long distances because I'll fall asleep, because I get into a meditative state whenever I do something like that's passive and repetitive like that. I'll fall asleep. So for my experience with them, they can just anytime they want to. And I don't remember. I'm a deep sleeper. I can sleep through a train passing by right next to me. Like I'm a deep sleeper. So for me, again, I feel like the level of control they have over me it's not fair that I don't at least have an understanding of what's going on. What are they doing when they take me? Like nothing, just put me through these experiences, traumatize me, leave me here with questions and no answers, keep giving me these weird experiences, and then let me, when I tell people, make it so strange that they can't even make sense of it. And then I'll live and die that way. Because Whitley Strieber he ain't 25 no more. How long do you think before he passes and doesn't know why?
No. You're misinterpreting everything about Whitley. He has answers because he interacted.
And he's wrote books. I mean,
he's wrote books, and Anne has come back from the other side and told him things.
I know that, and I'm well aware, and I'm I don't know I listened to his recent podcast on recently, and what I heard him, he still doesn't fully understand.
I think the consciousness that you and the rest of us are interacting with is a larger piece of the universal consciousness that we can consume. So the only thing we get is a part of it.
Pieces
of it.
Yeah.
Because it's too much larger than ours for the antenna network that we have here to interact with it and get all of it. We're only getting part of it.
Whitley's wife wrote a book through him after she passed away.
And he channeled it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And actually, I apologize, gentlemen. I'm going to have to step away. I can hear some little feet above me. Thank you so much for including me and staying up a little bit later. Thanks, fellas. I'll see you all very soon.
Yep.
Don't forget to text me, Tim.
I will.
And Jason, I put my number in the private chat.
There's his NSA hat.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Roderick. Yeah, we should have you on the podcast as well.
Yeah.
This is our time to say hi to all the agents and agencies hanging on out, listening to us tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning us in. Give us a call sometime because you already have the number. We don't need to give it to you. And remember, some of us can be bought. Some of us can be bought.
Thank you for listening in to Dave and my conversation every day to make sure I don't tell him something I shouldn't.
Indeed.
Oh, wow.
Indeed.
The only
Have a
word
good night,
I
gentlemen. I'll talk to you soon, Rod.
Night, fellas.
That's it.
I love it. See you later.
All right,
Peace,
Marquise. Let us know when. Let us know. We'll arrange things so she
Thank
can
you,
help.
man.
She can help. I
Thank you,
promise
guys.
you.
Seriously.
All right.
Take care. Peace.
All right.
Please, Bob.
So we out. Everybody out. We out too. Oh no, we not. We still here. Oh, is it over? We're done.
I'm still here. Show's done, but we're just bullshitting.
Oh, we bullshit. Okay, well, great show. Great bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know Marquise dropped, but I guess that's time for us to say goodbye.
Well, doom. Goodbye, sweet.
By the way, we're gonna have Roderick on the show.
The 19th.
What date do we choose?
You said the 19th, the 9th, right?
June 8th.
The 8th. Okay.
June 8th. Roderick will be a guest on this show.
Yep.
Dude, I love you, man, and congrats on your channel and all your success you're having right now, man.
We're gonna do it. We're doing it together, and I appreciate you as well. And then we'll bring you over to Why the Big Secret whenever you want, and we're gonna talk about the sugar honey iced tea over there.
Sugar honey iced tea.
Oh yes,
that sounds good.
All right, I guess I'm gonna head on to the house and shut all this down. And
me too.
Yeah, and we'll talk.
Me too. All right, guys. Stay tuned this weekend. Jessica Jones will not have a show tomorrow. She's had a pretty long week going from Vegas to Illinois to a Bigfoot conference, and so she's taking tomorrow off. She'll be back on Sunday. After Hours with Marquis starts at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday. Thank you to our super chatters tonight. Vaughn, Derek, Deb times 2, or 3, pardon me. Maggie, Free Your Mind, Bob, Becky, and Louie. We love you all. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up or down. Leave a comment after the show. And, of course, hit that subscribe. I'll talk to you guys on Monday. Take care.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.